I be flying like a falcon. Alright, like a. In a minute, I'm back to the door. Early Lord, I got status. In a minute, can't waste no time. In a minute, can't waste no time. In a minute, I'm back to the door. Early Lord, I got status. Give me a minute, my time to stop. On Sacramento, I'm shooting like box. Remember the days, stuck in the hot box. I be flying like a falcon. Alright, like a. In a minute, I'm back to the door. Early Lord, I got status. In a minute, can't waste no time. In a minute, can't waste no time. In a minute, I'm back to the door. Early Lord, I got status. Give me a minute, my time to stop. On Sacramento, I'm shooting like box. Remember the days, stuck in the hot box.
Let's get it crunk. Yeah. This big ball, man. P. Diddy and MJG, we raw, man. The pimp was a drug, we don't need. Got game for days. Better keep your broad away from a nigga like me. I likes to play. Drop the top and feel the summer breeze. I know you can get with that. Flipping through the city. Bright lights and all my G's is out here rolling with me. Come on. Big trucks or folk deep in an old school. Looking for the hoes at a club full of drunk fools. What? Who wanna get it crunk non-stop? Who you with? Who you with? Don't chill, hold them guns pop. Official player anthem. Say what you drinking, shout it. Pop that hen, roll something, let's get this party started. I roll with bad boys, we like them bad girls, them fast girls, them love to shake that ass, girl. Get with me, let's get a sweet, order something to eat. Tell me things about you, and I tell you things about me. Yeah, come on, shake them haters off, y'all. Shake them haters off, kitty, shake them haters off. Shake them haters off. Shake them haters off. Let's get it cooked, y'all. Let's get it cooked, y'all. Let's get it roof off. Let's ride out. Let's try to put these city lights out. Just roll with me. It's Diddy with some niggas that y'all know with me. Who? A-Ball and MJG. We got it, man. All them to Tennessee. Let's roll through them. How I call it is how I see. Let yourself go. The way I keep it real. Smile, I remind you of my belly front grill. Yes, it's on again. To a place near you. I'm looking out my rear view. Fresh kid too. Holla at your man. I'm clean and I'm tight. That's all day and night. These shoes fit me right. Just bending corners. Know just where you can find me. Picture this. You only have to use your mind. What you know good. It's your world and I'm just in it. It's just the way that God must have meant it. Speak of the man. Put your hands in the air with side to side. I'm the definition of half man, half drugs, ass the club.
Yeah. Salute. Is mic on? Kitty Frappuccino. Salute. It's Queen Sun Kids. Early bird. You heard. Yeah, man. What's good with it, man? Glad y'all could tune in, man. Got a good show coming up tonight. Got some interesting topics, man. P. Diddy news. More allegations. Got people standing up in trial. It's safe to say he's taking over the internet. We got other trending topics also. Right now, let's take a look into the New Orleans residents react to inmates escaping Orleans Justice Center. Subscribe to AP Archive.
And it's very, very shocking to find out that the system, like the
Crazy
jail
work.
system, is still like is finding ways of the inmates to get out. And it's a lot of danger also in the surrounding neighborhoods because you know you got small kids that be out and about playing and they're getting themselves into a terrible situation. And then I know it's the summer months, but it's real hard. They it be scary at times, you know. It's me because I work overnights and me trying to go to work, I have to be aware of my surroundings and see what's going on. Never know who is watching who and who's monitoring who.
That's what we need, bro. That's what we need. That's a blessing in the hood, man. Later that evening, you got 30 police cars around here. And stop all action. We can't move the way we want, can't do nothing. And then you go in here, you go in there, nobody, but you go next door in an abandoned house, you find one. Now, mind you, this dude been around us the whole day. I didn't know he was a fugitive till the police brought him out that house. I said, man, I've been talking to man all day. Man, we're talking about nothing but good stuff. You know, you trying to be cool, you chilling, and you wanted to see about getting a job. We talking about working and everything. Come work for me. You know?
Orleans in general doesn't necessarily give you the safest vibes. I mean, I'm not saying it's an unsafe place to be or live. I've lived here for 8 years and I love it here, but I don't think that a small group of people escaping from jail truly tilts the scale very far in either direction from where we were to begin with. I mean, they've got half of them now, I think, or maybe 6. It's more than I thought they would catch. Just maybe putting explaining how much stock I put in NOPD and the sheriff's department, but
why is that?
I mean, neither of them has a significantly strong track record. Well, I think it's pretty indicative of a lot of pretty significant systemic issues in the city, dealing with not only law enforcement in general, but also the policing and like jail system, the general corruption in the city, the lack of oversight.
All right, for those tuning in, that's the updates on the residents of New Orleans, where the 10-11 escaped out of the detention center or jailhouse. One was captured recently. A few have been captured. Let's see. Let's get an update on that. Let's go to WDSU News. Texas authorities arrest 2 New Orleans escaped inmates in Texas.
Updates for you right now. Sources are telling us 2 more escaped inmates have just been captured in Walker County, Texas. They are Leo Tate and Jermaine Donald. This is on top of sources telling us moments ago, about 30 minutes ago, Lenton Van Buren Jr. was captured during a traffic stop in Baton Rouge, along with the assistance of LSP and Baton Rouge police. This means 8 out of 10 inmates have now been captured, with 2 still on the run. We'll have the very latest and late-breaking developments on WDSU News at 10 and on WDSU.com.
Yeah, y'all can see, man, it's brewing up. You know, people had bets on these. They had, gambling pools on this, like, seeing which inmate gonna be the last one to get caught. So it's real. It's real life, man. They done put a whole little scramble board piece together, you know what I'm saying? Last man standing win the money. Let's go into WWL TV sky high bonds for accomplices in New Orleans jailbreak.
And the latest on the New Orleans jailbreak, 5 inmates are still on the run, while 12 others have been arrested in connection to that escape. Some are now facing bonds exceeding $1 million. Eleanor Tabone breaks down who's been taken into custody and what's driving those sky-high bonds.
There is a higher bond that's being set for these individuals.
Louisiana State Police arrested Courtney Harris and Corvante Batiste for allegedly helping some of the inmates who escaped the Orleans Parish Justice Center. According to authorities, both face felony charges of accessory after the fact for allegedly providing food, rides and communication to inmates still on the run. A judge set Harris's bond at $2.5 million and Baptiste's bond at $1 million.
Whenever you see a bond being set somewhere at the $1 million range or above 6 figures, it's typically for an individual who's accused of harming someone gravely. We're speaking about great bodily injury. We're talking of murder.
Sterling Williams, a jail maintenance worker accused of helping the inmates escape, is being held on a $1.1 million bond, an amount his lawyer criticized.
They are way out of it. That is completely ridiculous.
Over the weekend, more people were arrested. 48-year-old Lenton Van Buren Sr. and 41-year-old Angel McKee were both charged as accessories after the fact, each being held on a $1 million bond. 23-year-old Trayvon Williams, a current inmate at OJC, was rebooked on 10 counts of principal to simple escape. His bond was set at $2.5 million. Lawyer Ken Barnes says there's several reasons why judges may be setting bonds so high.
What this is a message. And this is a message that the community, the court, does not take these allegations lightly. And they want to also influence others who may think that they want to assist from doing so.
Ken says it's possible their bonds may be reduced. He says bonds are likely being determined by how much they help the escapees.
They're saying, well, you help somebody. We have not been able to find that person. So your assistance is continuously aiding this person's absconding from the criminal justice system. And so for that reason, for the job that has been done, the bond has been set at that level.
According to Crime Stoppers, they've gotten hundreds of tips.
We believe 3 of the arrests can be attributed to the assistance through Crime Stoppers tips.
Darlene Costanza with Crime Stoppers Greater New Orleans says some of those tips helped arrest those accused of helping the escapees.
We've gotten tips on all of the fugitives that are outstanding. We've certainly gotten tips on those who may be helping fugitives.
Eleanor Tabone, WWL, Louisiana.
You can claim a reward of up to $20,000 per inmate if you tip your tip has valuable information. You can find out more on how to contact authorities on our website, WWLTV.com. And we are bringing you an in-depth look at the first 7 days of the New Orleans jailbreak. It has a detailed timeline plus interviews with victims who have gone into hiding. You can watch on WWL Plus on demand. Just download the app on your television to watch for free.
Salute out to everybody coming through. For those of you who might not know what's going on, 10 plus inmates escaped from New Orleans jail, and now they've captured maybe probably about 7 or 8 out of the 10 or 11 or whatnot, but then they got accomplices also. One guy got his grandmama locked up. Let's go to 5 inmates still on the run 1 week after Orleans Parish jailbreak. Let's go to WVUE Fox 8 New Orleans.
Good evening. I'm Lauren McCoy. In Orleans Parish, the frantic search for escapees is still underway. It's been 1 week since 10 inmates escaped the jail, and 5 inmates are in custody. Take a close look at this. These are the men still on the run tonight. The search has also led to the arrest of 5 people accused of helping the escapees. Today, a judge set the bond for a 5th accused accomplice who allegedly helped the men escape. Jacob Bradford has a breakdown of what happened this week.
Last Friday, a scene you'd think you'd see in an action movie caught on the Orleans Justice Center cameras. 12:23 a.m. Inmates started yanking on a cell door, eventually pulling it off its track. They entered a cell, then 10 escaped from a hole in the wall behind a toilet. Inmate Trayvon Williams is said to have helped them in their escape, although the exact details of how he helped are not known at this time. At 1:01 a.m., the escapees are seen running through a loading dock door, scaling a wall before they were spotted running across the interstate as cars hit the brakes to avoid crashing into them. Sometime before 1:30 a.m., police say Courtney Harris, along with Casey Smith, picked up Leo Tate, Jermaine Donald, and a third unknown escapee in the 1700 block of Dupree Street off Washington Avenue near Central City. Police say they dropped that third inmate off just minutes later at South Broad and 4th Streets. Then police say they drove to Dale Street in New Orleans East, where witnesses say they spotted Jermaine Donald, who asked them for money before leaving. About a half hour later at 2:11 a.m., surveillance cameras capture video of Antoine Massey, Lenton Van Buren, and Derek Groves walking down an alley off Barone Street in the CBD. Video also shows them crossing Howard Avenue at Barone. It wasn't until nearly 7.5 hours later at 8:30 a.m. that the sheriff's office says employees discovered the inmates missing during a routine head count. And a half hour after that, at 9 a.m., Sheriff Susan Hudson says she was notified.
You got to go inside the facility to be able to see. They could have been anywhere. We have to make sure that's exactly what happened. We have to pull all the video and find out what happened. That takes a little bit of time.
At 9:58, escapees Kendall Miles and Corey Boyd are seen walking in the French Quarter on Project NOLA crime cameras. At about 10:15, Fox 8 breaks the story. 10:30, New Orleans police learn of the escapes, and at 10:50, the sheriff's office notifies the public. The next recording of an escapee comes in at 11:12, as video shows Miles' arrest in front of the Hotel Monteleone, hiding under a parked car. Miles was originally in the OJC on robbery and second-degree murder charges. 7 inmates were still on the loose.
Did no one see this on the cameras? Is anyone watching the cameras? Because you would think that this would be like a huge, somehow the system would flag this like, hey, you know, there's a bunch of people now running out the building.
Throughout the weekend, scenes like this were seen around the city. This video was taken Saturday afternoon on the I-10 service road in New Orleans East. Large armored trucks and SWAT teams from Louisiana State Police rushing to chase down leads and make arrests. On Sunday, the reward for tips leading to an arrest increases to $20,000 per inmate.
In addition to the FBI increasing their award from $5,000 to $10,000, I would ask that you go ahead and increase the Crime Stoppers award to $5,000. That's a $3,000 increase. Both Senator Henry and I are going to cover that amount.
Around 7 the following evening, state police recaptured 21-year-old Gary Price in the East. Price was originally in jail on first-degree murder and domestic abuse charges. Tuesday, jail maintenance worker Sterling Williams is arrested, charged with helping the inmates by turning off the water to the toilet they escaped behind. His bond is set at $1.1 million. His attorney and family say he was following orders from a deputy to shut the water off to the toilet that was allegedly clogged.
Stay strong, Sterling. We're coming to get you.
Sterling strong.
Sterling strong.
Sterling strong.
Sterling strong.
We here for you, Sterling. Mama here for you.
Investigators say Williams was threatened with being shanked if he did not shut that water off. Attorney General Liz Murrell says Williams had plenty of time to alert his supervisors.
I think that he made some bad decisions. I mean, I don't think that he had to do any of the things that he did.
Shortly before 8 Tuesday evening, 19-year-old Corey Boyd is arrested at an apartment building on Iberville Street. Police arresting 4 women they say helped the inmates, such as driving them around the city and sending money. That includes 30-year-old Casey Smith, 32-year-old Courtney Harris, 38-year-old Cravante Baptiste, and 59-year-old Connie Whedon.
And tonight, these are the 5 inmates that are still on the run. 27-year-old convicted killer Derek Groves, 32-year-old Antoine Massey, who was wanted in St. Tammany Parish for rape and kidnapping. 42-year-old Jermaine Donald and 26-year-old Lenton Van Buren are facing charges of second-degree murder. 31-year-old Leo Tate faces drug and burglary charges. All are said to be dangerous offenders. And earlier this evening, police arrested 28-year-old Emmett Weber in New Orleans East. He is also accused of helping some of those inmates avoid capture. The reward for information leading to an arrest sits at $20,000. If you know anything, you are urged to call Crime Stoppers at 822-1111. Your tip will remain anonymous.
Yeah. Let's get into the Diddy. Let's get into the Diddy case. So much has been happening. Let's go to Law and Crime Network. P. Diddy trial. Everyone's showing up to support rap mogul.
Sean Combs is on trial for his life in New York, accused of sex trafficking and racketeering, but he has support. I go over who's showing up in court to back the rap mogul as he defends himself. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Every day, Sean Combs walks into federal court in a sweater and slacks and listens to testimony about his freak-offs and alleged criminal, violent behavior. And as he listens to this and is fighting for his life, there are people in court supporting him. On the first day of his trial, many of Combs' family members were there. His daughters and his mother, Janice Combs, she was also there. His sons were also in court. And there's one person who's been at every court appearance for Sean Combs, and he's also attending the trial each day. He's Combs' best friend, Charlucci Finney.
I'm a father of two daughters, right? So I wouldn't be here wearing this shirt if I've ever saw any one of my friends, especially him, hit a woman. And it would never happen in front of me. And I've never seen it, never heard it. And seeing it, yeah, it was a lot to take in, but I knew that wasn't him. It looked like, you know, like I was saying, drug-induced, high, or whatever you want to call it. But that's not the Sean that I know.
Now, Finney contends Combs and Cassie were just in a toxic relationship marked by domestic violence, not sex trafficking. And he called the freak-offs consensual.
He didn't bring anyone in. If he was following the case, and I'm quite sure you have, Chris, Cassie brought the people in. Cassie, that's what she did. So a sex worker never said that Sean brought them anywhere, did anything. And as far as being scared, that just mind-boggling to me. I don't believe that at all. Everybody was willing, consenting adults.
Now, Law and Crime's Elizabeth Milner, she's going to be here with me very shortly to explain who's been in the courtroom. And it's not just Combs' family members. There are actually just regular people showing up to support him. And one person who's been in court, Misa Hilton, the mother of Combs' oldest son, Justin Combs. She posted on Instagram, "Yes, I'm good, everyone. I'm on my healing journey. When I suffered my injury, I had chosen to heal privately, but when my son said, 'Mommy, I need you,' I was right there for him, walker and all. I'm a mother first, for real, and I am my son's strength. And that's just what it is, plain and simple. Whoever doesn't understand that just simply isn't in alignment with me or anything that I'm about in life. I'm cool with that. I have a purpose-filled life that I live daily. I make impact. I'm not concerned with insecure people attempting to project their insecurities onto me. ever. So Hilton says she went to court to support Justin, not necessarily Sean Combs. She had previously posted in support of all of Combs' children and said that Sean Combs needs help after seeing that video of him beating Cassie in the hotel hallway. Meanwhile, outside of court, there are people wearing T-shirts in support of Sean Combs, and some claim they're being paid.
Why do you feel that way?
So these are all paid protesters. You can get $20 an hour if you wear a T-shirt.
You gotta speak up.
She just got recruited, right?
I refuse.
You said no.
No.
It wasn't worth the 20?
No, but like he told me.
So as you guys can see, they got people getting paid $20 an hour, standing outside the courthouse, free Diddy shirts. He's definitely campaigning still.
Me that it's for a Diddy coin, so I'm not really sure what that is. Yeah, they just tried to pay me $20 to wear a free puffy shirt.
Stop. I could tell because
the lady right there, she just kept convincing me to go wear a shirt, and I'm like, I'm good.
So just $20, and if you need $20, all you have to do is wear a free puff shirt.
And just stand out here.
And you said no.
Yeah, I said no.
Did they say how many hours?
$20 an hour. And she told me she got paid like $60 yesterday for standing out here in 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Our content shows just how important personal safety is, and that is especially true when it comes to protecting your privacy online. You would be absolutely shocked at how much of your personal information is out there, like addresses and phone numbers. Ever wonder why you get so many of those annoying spam calls and emails? That's because this information is all public. That's where our sponsor Incogni comes in. It's a service that helps you take control of your online privacy by removing your personal data from data brokers, huge companies that sell and trade your info without your permission. Incogni found more than 50 brokers with my information. Can you believe that? And here's the kicker. These data brokers have to remove you from their database if you ask them to. Now you're thinking, Anjanette, who in the heck has time to contact a data broker? Well, that again is where Incogni comes in. They contact those companies for you to get your online safety back. You don't have to do a thing, and then they alert you after the request has been completed. After signing up, I get virtually no spam now, so I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. Right now, anyone who uses the code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix gets 60% off. That's a great deal. And again, it's code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix for 60% off an annual Incogni plan. So to get the inside scoop on who's really supporting Sean Combs in the courtroom, I want to bring in Elizabeth Milner. She is a reporter here at Law and Crime, and she is in the courtroom every day. She's been to every Sean Combs hearing throughout this case. So Elizabeth, tell me, who are you seeing? Let's start at the very, very beginning. Day one, the daughters of Sean Combs were there. His mom, Janice, was there. So you tell me who else we saw back on day one show up to support Sean Combs.
There were a lot of supporters of Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka PD, P. Diddy, Love, just all the different names that he has. But it was a pretty stacked courtroom, especially on day one, which we know they were finalizing the jury that day, but also opening statements happened that day. So we had everyone from Mark Garagos, Karen Agnifilo, who's married to Mark Agnifilo. Lil Rod was in the courtroom, not to necessarily support Diddy or anything like that, but he was inside that courtroom, inside the gallery on day one. Doug Wigder was in the courtroom. He represents Cassie, not on Diddy's side necessarily, but as far as his supporters specifically, definitely a lot of family members, including his son or adopted son, Brown, his son, Justin Combs, Christian Combs, the twins, Delilah and Jesse. Chance Combs was there. Chance's mother was there. Janice Combs, again, Diddy's mother was there. I didn't see Diddy's sister, Keisha, on day one, or even throughout the first week of trial, not necessarily sure why. But we also saw another mother of Diddy's children, and that being Dana Tran, who is the mother of Diddy's youngest daughter named Love. And then we saw Kim Porter's best friend, who is one of the caregivers of actually the twins. And so he had a pretty stacked support system as far as family and loved ones go, as well as one of his childhood friends that he's known, I think, since high school, from what I can understand, named Charlucci. He's been inside that courtroom for all the hearings, every single day of trial so far. And so he had a lot of supporters definitely on day one and for sure on day two too.
Now I want to talk about let's talk about Charlucci Finney first. He is the best friend of Sean Combs, and he's been there every day. And you said now that he's been there for all the pretrial hearings too, right?
Yeah, he's been there for a lot of the pretrial hearings. I always was wondering who was the guy wearing the free puff sweatshirt and the free puff hat. And, you know, he was allowed to do that during the pretrial hearing because there's no jury, no way that could be prejudicial. So he was able to do it. However, once trial comes, he had to turn this sweatshirt inside out. But he has been very supportive of Diddy throughout a lot of the pretrial hearings, throughout the trial, as somebody who's essentially always in the courtroom, surprisingly always writing down notes too, and just kind of being that support system for Diddy. But he is there essentially every day so far.
So the daughters, it's my understanding, we'd spoken about this before. There were times when they left during some of the testimony, when there was talk about the freak offs and stuff like that. I mean, you can understand that. My God, like who wants to hear about their dad taking part in this stuff? They're women, they're, you know, young women, you know, teenage girls. But the children haven't been there. The children of Sean Combs haven't been there every day, right?
Not every day. So for the twin daughters specifically, I was told by a source inside the courtroom, a source to Sean Combs, that they actually flew back to the other side of the coast because they were attending what a lot of teenagers do, and that's prom, that's graduation coming up. And so that's why we haven't seen them inside the courtroom, especially this week, because they had prom over the weekend. We saw some photos of them in their prom dresses, but we also haven't seen Chance Combs as well too. She hasn't been inside the courtroom at least this week, but as far as them leaving the courtroom, especially during some of that more graphic testimony, and that was specifically to Daniel Phillip, one of the male escorts or male exotic dancers that was used in the freak offs, when it started getting into just the graphic testimony of what the sexual acts that he was doing to Cassie during that time. Yeah, I did definitely see them all kind of walk up during that moment and just get out of the courtroom, probably to just escape just some of the graphic testimony. Because even for myself, being older than they are as of right now, it is a lot sometimes. So I can only imagine hearing that and knowing that your dad is involved, of being a clear reason to just get out of the courtroom and just take a breath and take a beat for a little bit. But as far as Cassie's testimony goes, I saw them in the courtroom the majority of the time. I didn't see them kind of walk up when Cassie was testifying. It was only specifically when Daniel Phillip was.
That's very interesting. And you know, they would have been younger, but they would have maybe known Cassie, you know. I mean, I don't know how much she was around the children, but I'm assuming they knew Cassie.
I think they knew of her. From my understanding of Cassie's testimony, it seemed that Diddy really kept the children separate from his relationship with Cassie. Cassie wanted to go on vacation, and she wanted to be at the New Year's Eve party. She wanted to be kind of with Diddy in all aspects of his life, including his family. But according to the testimony that she gave, that wasn't even necessarily the case. So they might have known of her because even during that time frame, their mother, Kim Porter, was still alive. And so it seems like, from what I was getting just through Cassie speaking about the situation, is that she really didn't have much interaction with the children beyond wishing them well and just being hopeful about all of them and sending them love. But as far as just really being a second mother figure, it didn't really seem that way from her.
That's very interesting. Let's talk now about Janice Combs, because Janice Combs obviously.
Salute, shout out to everybody there. Hit that like button, hit that share button, subscribe button, follow button, add button. We're streaming on all networks. Shout out to everybody coming through. Right now, we're doing an update on the Puff Daddy trial and case. We're going to be doing reviews on the people that's been supporting Puff, and also the people that's testifying, and also the witnesses. Right now, this is Puffy's mother.
Has known Sean Combs longer than anybody. She is his mother. She gave birth to him, and she is certainly standing by her son. She put out a statement quite a while back, basically saying he's being maligned in the press, etc. She was there in the beginning, but has she been there every day?
She hasn't been there every day. She was really there every single day of last week, being the first week of trial. But as far as this week goes, not sure if maybe she flew back over to the West Coast to see the twins go off to prom or graduation or that sort. So I'm not necessarily sure why Janice wasn't in the courtroom this week particularly, but Diddy did have other support, and that being his sister Keisha, who has been inside that courtroom every day during week 2. So at least for the most part, it seems that he always has at least one support system of the family being inside the courtroom, and then obviously Charlucci being in there as well. But he, as far as Janice goes, yeah, she wasn't there this week, and I'm not necessarily sure why.
Very interesting. And you never know. I mean, maybe they've discussed how this will work. Maybe Janice had things to do. Maybe she had doctor's appointments. We just don't know. And I don't think anybody should read anything into that either. But they've probably worked this out where it's like, okay, the girls want to go to prom or graduation or what have you, so that they'll be there. And then Keisha will come in, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So talk to me, if you would, a little bit about Sean Combs's reaction to the support in the courtroom. I mean, how is he? What are you seeing when he enters the courtroom in the morning, or when you get in there? Is he already in there? How is he looking? And of course, we're not seeing the Sean Combs we are used to seeing on stage or on the red carpet. There are no tuxedos. There are no business suits. There are no flamboyant outfits, red leather jackets, or anything like that. This is not the stage persona. We are seeing the dad, Mr. Rogers version of Sean Combs. No dyed hair. We are seeing the 55-year-old man who's trying to project an image to the jury of, I'm just a guy. Like, here I am, I'm in a sweater and, slacks.
Yep, that's exactly right. Literally just like Mr. Rogers. He is very toned down, very casual, and in part because of the judge's order where he could only wear specific clothing items, right? That being sweaters, that being button-ups. And so from what I could see of him every single day, he's only assigned 5 different outfit switches, and that is for the entire 8 weeks of trial. So it's a lot of muted colors, a lot of grays, a lot of browns, some cream. And again, it's only 5 different outfits. So really those are just the main colors that he's wearing inside the courtroom. But he looks a lot different than we have seen him in press photos on red carpets. He is grayer. He does have kind of a shaved face, but still his goatee is there. It's a little gray too, but even like as far as his tattoos, all of those are covered up. He has a big kind of king crown tattoo that I would see whenever he was in the MDC jumpsuit during the pretrial hearings, but that's covered up. So the jury's not seeing that, and they're really seeing, quite frankly, a very toned down version of Diddy. So when I'm coming inside the courtroom, the press is allowed in first, and then the defendant, or Diddy, is brought in later after the marshals kind of do their normal search. But even the marshals, they look a lot different from the pretrial hearings in that they were wearing their uniforms and their standard kind of khakis and button-up shirt. But as
they
far
wear
as
suits when there's
exactly, now they're wearing suits. Yeah. So maybe the jury doesn't recognize or even realize that the defendant is in jail or being detained at MDC Brooklyn during this trial and throughout this. But when I see Diddy come inside the courtroom, he always hugs his attorneys. He always kind of looks and scans across the gallery a little bit. If he has family inside the courtroom, he's like showing them love. He does this a lot. And, one of his other nicknames is Love, and he definitely will show the love to those who show it to him. And so he kind of scans the courtroom, I think kind of gauging who's inside the courtroom, who's there, who's possibly supporting him. And then he just essentially gets to work. And really, sometimes it's like seeing a coach, if that makes sense. Like, he really is just in it where he's jotting notes down. He's talking to Mark Agnifilo. He's talking to Brian Steele, Tenny Garagos, just essentially all of his attorneys really just, and we all know he was a chairman and he has run boardrooms and he has had these high positions of power throughout his pretty much his career as far as music, entertainment, all of that, right? And so he's not like a passive defendant at all. Like he really is just an active participant in his defense. He, during testimony, he's really watching his attorneys, the line of questioning. I see him kind of looking at the jury sometime during the testimony, looking at the witnesses. When George Kaplan was on the stand on Thursday, he was smiling at him when he was talking about, when George Kaplan was testifying about Diddy being an icon and a cultural moment and how he always wanted a diverse group and he had started Revolt and just kind of talking about his accomplishments prior to his arrest, that Diddy was nodding along and smiling during this. Biggie has been mentioned a number of times. We know Biggie to be one of Diddy's best friends before his death in the 90s. And Biggie was mentioned a number of times and Diddy smiles during those moments, but you can tell like some of the more serious moments, such as the Homeland Security investigators testifying, he really kind of brings it down. He's not as jovial because that's when the evidence is shown. That's when we're seeing the baby oil, the Astroglide, the high heels, the sex toys, and just everything else that agents find. But I really have noticed a lot that he is very active in his defense. And if there's a question that needs to be asked, he's definitely writing it down, passing it off to his attorneys, and they're asking those questions.
But you're saying when he comes in, he scans the gallery and he's doing this. I'm not even very good at doing that. He's giving the love symbol. Like I need to work on my little hand movement gestures. I'm not good at that. But he's seeing who's showing up for him and he's kind of giving out. I also heard that he saw somebody in court, you know, and I know we were talking, you didn't see this, but somebody had a scrawled letter or something.
Shout out to everybody coming through. Update on the P. Diddy case, how he's standing up. As you can see, he's in high spirits, showing love to everybody coming through. He did change his name to Love. We back at it.
Or something, and Marshall called that person out. It was like somebody who was a free Diddy person or whatever. Yeah. And apparently he was like, he did one of these. Like, have you seen any of these? Like, because I read that there was one of these, like, you know.
Yep, I've seen this. I've seen this. There was one woman specifically, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday, where she was sitting towards the back of the gallery on the public side, because the public is allowed inside the courtroom. They can definitely watch these proceedings. And I saw her do this to Diddy, and then Diddy did this right back to her. And so I think he appreciates knowing that not everyone is necessarily not on his side. I think he appreciates the support system that he has. Obviously, it's a lot different being inside that courtroom in that we have to be very quiet. We have to abide by the rules. But what I hear from what's going on in the overflow room is that there's been like cackles. There's people bringing their children in to watch this trial. And so I'm not necessarily sure if there's more supporters in the overflow room.
People are bringing their children to watch this?
There was a baby inside the overflow room, and the baby was crying because I guess somebody wanted to watch everything go down, and surprisingly the baby just, I guess, kept crying through all this. Now, mind you, all the reporters having to take their notes, they have to jot things down, they're there to work, but there are some people there to just watch everything, and they are there sometimes every day.
Okay. I don't think that babies at least can't. You're supposed to be playing classical music for your babies. That's what all the baby books say. Not taking them to the Sean Combs trial. But hey, you know, whatever. I don't take your kids to the Sean Combs trial, please. This is R and X rated stuff. Okay. Please find a babysitter. Let's talk about what's going on outside court, because I saw a TikTok that you posted of somebody wearing free Diddy shirts. Allegedly, people are being paid $20 to wear free Diddy shirts. Is that actually true? Somebody like, is PR paying people $20 to wear free Diddy shirts, or are people doing this of their own volition?
I have no idea. So this happened on Friday. So this was the end of the first week. I'm coming out to do my live talk back with Jesse on Sidebar. But I come out and I'm seeing just a whole crowd of people. Then I cross the street and I'm seeing just free Diddy shirts. And it's surprising because we weren't seeing that, especially even the first day of trial. Like, we weren't seeing any of that. But I think as more people are realizing that this trial is going on, they're starting to kind of know where this trial is going on. Just more people just hoping to catch some portion of the action are just going there. And so I cross the street and I see a whole bunch of people in free Diddy shirts. They're black with like white letters, and they say free P. Diddy. And then I see the TikTok where somebody had said, oh no, there's a man asking people to wear these shirts for $20 an hour. And somebody wore the shirt for about 3 hours. So they made $60. But as far as like whether or not the PR is involved, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think it's somebody else who might just be a supporter of Diddy's.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, I believe in him. I don't think he did a crime. You know, because a lot of people think like, yeah, what he did was horrible to Cassie in the hallway. You know, but there are people who support him who do not think he's a racketeer. They do not believe he's a sex trafficker. They believe, his supporters believe, this was domestic violence. These were not federal crimes. And that is what his supporters believe.
Mm-hmm. They do, definitely. And even some of the supporters, they're even just wanting to see pieces of Diddy's children, especially the sons. A lot of kind of female fans I have been seeing have been just kind of excited to see Justin and Christian, and even glimpses of Quincy, because during the lunch break, they kind of get onto a Sprinter van and they kind of go off, I think, to just have lunch and that stuff. But yeah, there are people who do support Diddy, who do believe in his innocence. And from what I'm told, the family is standing by him through all that. And they believe that he's not guilty of the charges that he's been charged with.
Yeah, most definitely. They do believe that for sure. And there's a film crew traveling with them from what I've seen too in the videos, like in this big Sprinter van. So there's something going on there. They're doing a documentary, you know, they are. So, you know, everybody does a documentary these days.
Everyone has one. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. It's like, there's a big case. Guess what? There's a documentary, or 2 or 3, maybe 4. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much. You've been doing such a good job. I hope you'll come back on with me. I know you're a busy girl, and we'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Definitely will be back on with you.
And that's it for the
Salute 202, Queen Real. Salute. Shout out to everybody coming in the chat. Salute. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that add button, follow. It's a lot happening with this Diddy case. A lot of people coming in, stepping up. You got new witnesses. You got a lot happening. Let's go to Law and Crime Network. P. Diddy on trial. Cassie confirms sex slave. Jonathan Odie, wild claims.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie.
Jonathan Odie, a name that has circulated on social media, the adult performer who went viral for the wild comments he made about Sean Combs and Cassie years ago. But now, all these years later, he has officially been called out at Combs' federal criminal trial in a big way. Portions of testimony have been dedicated to him. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with people and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay, for them.
7 years ago, when Jonathan Odie told that to authorities, no one really took notice, right? It was just the ramblings of a crazy person. But now, In 2025, when Sean Diddy Combs is on trial for federal sex crimes and his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura Fine, victim one in this case, testifies against him claiming she was coerced into prolonged and elaborate sexual performances with male sex workers, yeah, we look at this a lot different. And in fact, we are looking at what Jonathan Oddie said and himself a lot differently, considering he officially came up in testimony during this trial. Cassie talked about him quite a bit. By the way, I say Jonathan Oddie. I've heard other people say Jonathan Odie. Haven't been able to get official confirmation on how to pronounce his last name, but I'm going to go with Jonathan Oddie. Anyway, it has been quite a wild journey, okay? And you have to say, with her testimony, does it validate everything that he said? Maybe.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy.
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people.
Okay, maybe not everything, I don't know. But he did say at the time that he was paid to have sex with Cassie in front of Combs. And what is being said now in court? Well, before we even get into that, let me explain who Jonathan Oddie is. So Oddie is this former stripper who was taken into custody in May of 2018 after he allegedly fired a gun inside of the Trump National Doral Miami Hotel and Resort in the middle of the night. The Florida State Attorney's Office says that Oddie fired shots in the lobby toward the chandelier, then draped a giant American flag across the front desk. He also apparently got into a shootout with police officers. Now, according to the Miami-Dade court, Oddie faces 10 charges, multiple counts of attempted murder, aggravated assault, burglary. There really is no real update on his case. It's kind of been stagnant. He's still locked up. But I'll tell you what, when he sat down for a long interview with law enforcement after his arrest, during that interview, he brought up, unprompted, that he was Sean Combs' sex slave. Okay? It was a pretty wild allegation at the time. And again, nobody really took notice because this was years before Combs would ultimately be accused of all this, that he would be accused in multiple lawsuits of wrongdoing, before he would end up being charged with federal sex trafficking and racketeering and prostitution charges. Allegations being that he formed a criminal enterprise using his businesses to abuse women, including forcing them into coerced sexual performances, including with sex workers. Freak-offs, baby oil, drugs, voyeurism, okay? I'll tell you what, we have been on top of this Jonathan Oddie story and its connection to Diddy for a while now here on Sidebar, and the reason that we can do that for you here is because we get amazing support from our sponsors like Upside. Now, Upside's great. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch, I can use Upside. Maybe I get something at a convenience store, I can use Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Well, now here's the thing. Cassandra Ventura Fine took the stand and she testified about her 11-year relationship with Sean Combs. She claims that she was physically abused by the rap mogul, that she was beaten, that she was dragged, that she was kicked. As we know, this was allegedly documented in 2016 hotel footage, photos of her alleged injuries, her testimony, the testimony of others like another male performer named Daniel Phillip, her former friend Kerry Morgan, Dawn Richard from Dandy Kane, all corroborating testimony. And all of them, all corroborating testimony because they all testified to Combs assaulting Cassie. And the prosecution asserts that Combs used threats, violence, manipulation to induce and coerce Cassie into commercial sex acts with male strippers, performers, escorts, that this was done without her real consent. And during the course of her testimony, Jonathan Oddie seemingly comes up. Okay, this is a big deal. So I'm going to read you portions of the transcript where he comes up or seemingly comes up. For example, there's this exchange. Miss Ventura, who do you know the individual depicted in Government Exhibit 2A624 to be? Answer, Jonathan. Question, how do you know Jonathan? We saw him several times. Who is we? Sean and I. In what cities did you, or cities did you see Jonathan? In Miami, mostly. I don't know if he flew anywhere. Jonathan Adi, Florida, makes sense. But then there was another part where he came up, and this is big. So the idea being, and give you a little bit of backstory here, the idea being that Combs had allegedly recorded sexual episodes, freak-offs, okay, without Cassie knowing. And the prosecution said that he did this as a way to blackmail and intimidate her into doing what he wanted. But listen to this exchange about a different type of recording, something that came up on cross-examination by Combs' defense counsel. So this is the question to Cassandra Ventura. Fine. Did you know whether or not Mr. Combs expressed concern about these videos also being released? Answer, when? Question, have you ever witnessed Mr. Combs express concern about these videos being released? Yes. And Mr. Combs always supported you in not wanting these videos to come out and prevented these videos from coming out? I would say for this part. There was an escort that you met named Mr. Jonathan Adi a few times, right? Yeah. Do you know who I'm referring to? Yep. At some point, you understood that he'd taken a video, a secret video of you and Mr. Combs and he at a freak-off, right?
Salute, stop to everybody tuning in right now. They're speaking on the alleged sex slave of one of Diddy's freak-offs. Odie made some claims 7 some odd years ago, speaking on what he's being charged with right now.
I thought he did, yeah. When you found out about that, you spent some amount of time, several months, trying to make sure that it went away, right? I did not. Mr. Combs did? Yeah. You understood that Mr. Combs spent a great deal of time and money to make sure that that video went away, right? I didn't know any of the details. Were you aware that he spent a significant amount of money to make sure the video did not get released? No. When you learned that Mr. Adi had taken a secret recording of you that ended your relationship with him, right? I believe so. You never would have had a freak off with him ever again, right? No, I'm not going to play anything, but you also had a conversation with Mr. Adi that was transcribed, right? Or recorded? Recorded. I don't remember, but it sounds familiar. And you were very concerned about the situation with Mr. Adi, right? Yeah. He seemed like a volatile personality, right? I don't know about volatile, I just didn't trust it. He was threatening to release a sex video of you, right? I don't know that he actually did that. I'm sorry. You don't know if he threatened to release the video? I don't remember. You just remember learning that he did have a video. I was in the room with him and I saw the phone up, and so I told Sean about it right after. But you were concerned that he was recording at the time, right? Yes. And when you raised that concern with Mr. Combs, he did all that he could to get rid of Mr. Adi, right? And then there's an objection from Emily Johnson, one of the prosecutors. The judge says that's sustained. Going back to the questioning. What happened when you told Mr. Combs about your suspicion that Adi was recording you? He said, I'll take care of it. That's the most I remember. To your knowledge, Mr. Combs was also concerned about recordings of him getting out, right? Yep. Mr. Combs is a celebrity, as we've already established, right? Yes. And these would have been embarrassing to him and they had been released, right? Yes. Just as they would have been embarrassing to you had they been released. I guess it depends on what content, yeah. Had a sex video of you been released, it would have been embarrassing, right? For sure. That's why you were so upset in that audio recording we just heard, right? So putting aside the idea that Adi allegedly had a recording of both Combs and Ventura, and we're going to get to that in a minute because he too has apparently spoken out recently about this. But the reason from a legal point of view that this is also important is because the defense is trying to establish that Combs was trying to protect Cassie, that he would never release a sex tape of her or the two of them, that they're trying to cast doubt on the idea that he would ever blackmail Cassie with releasing sex tape footage, that he wouldn't do that to embarrass her or himself, and also seeming to suggest you ended this whole relationship with Jonathan Adi because you thought he had a recording of you. Wouldn't you have done the same? If Combs had a recording of you and was threatening to blackmail you, you wouldn't have put up with that. You wouldn't have stayed with him. I think that's a portion of where they might be going. But putting that to the side, at one point when she was on the stand, when Cassie was on the stand, she was questioned about an audio recording where she allegedly berates a DJ who may have had one of these freak-off tapes. And look, this was a different side of Cassandra Ventura Fine than what we were seeing on the stand. Because she allegedly says to him on this tape, if you have it, pull it up or I will kill you. And he will kill you again. The he seems to be in reference to Sean Combs. She also allegedly said on the recording, "If you don't show me, I will cut you up." Now, when questioned by the prosecution, she said, quote, "I was just sick about it and was feeling pressure from Sean, so I was going in on Sugin, this is the DJ. It was weird. It was a weird day." "What do you mean you were feeling pressure from Sean?" she's asked. Answer, "He was sending me messages because I shared it with him, obviously, right away because we didn't know whether or not it was a freak-off video. And yeah, he just texted me quite a bit and called me quite a bit about it, so I felt like I had to handle the situation." Who, if anyone, was directing you? Sean. Again, this is so incredible because listen to what Jonathan Oddie said back in the day about all this.
I caught herpes, and I came back and I sued him for the herpes and won. But they did Mark Garros and Ben Mercedes were his attorneys, okay? They asked me to turn in that, which was the video recording, and I did so. They gave it back to me accidentally, and it's possible I threw everything out. It's possible I can produce a copy.
Now, Jonathan Oddie recently spoke with News Nation. And what did he say to News Nation? Well, he told News Nation, quote, that he felt bad because I got along with her, meaning Cassie, and I think she's a decent person. And I had a suspicion that she was in a situation that she was in, but I wasn't sure. And now I understand what was going on in her life and what was happening. And him beating her up in the hotel shows me the type of individual he is, and that everything that happened to me is true and correct and in line with his personality. And he described how he would have to wear a costume during these sexual episodes, how he would strip down, how he was paid to do, quote, extra stuff, all while Combs watched and allegedly pleasured himself. Claimed that he had 15 sessions with Ventura Fine and Combs and was paid $800 each time, sometimes multiple times in one day. And when describing how drugs were used during these encounters, he talks about how he was concerned that someone might overdose. And he apparently decided that he was going to take action. And he was going to take action when Cassie was passed out. Oddie said, quote, "So after she passed out, I decided to record that in the event anything was to happen. Like if she died or anybody died, it would be on camera, on video what happened. I wasn't responsible for any of that. I put it on the table and filmed the entire session. I had it transcribed. They had been threatening me, but he, meaning Diddy, would tell her what to say." And Oddie explained he no longer was hired to perform for Cassie and Combs, calling them paranoid, saying, quote, "I wanted to guarantee my safety. So I text them. I said, if anything happens to me, I have evidence of being with you." Again, pretty incredible that we went from this.
The hip-hop agenda is an agenda to move drugs law in the United States. You need to involve the DEA. They move all the dope. Okay, all the dope on private jets, which don't get screened by customs, by the inside the United States. Okay, they move what's called high grade powder MDMA. They move cocaine and they move liquid cocaine in the bottles too. Okay, so they put the liquid cocaine in the bottles and they move it. I've seen the liquid cocaine. I've drank it myself. Having sex with Diddy and Cassie. Okay, it's not good. He drinks all the time.
To now, he's officially a part of the Sean Combs trial. Unbelievable. And when you think about, does this validate some of what he said? This is not the first time that we have had a conversation about whether Oddie's claims are in fact true. You might recall that Oddie said this too in his interview with authorities back in the day.
I've had a great life. I've settled $4.125 million with Diddy. Okay, was he scared that I was going to expose him?
I don't want to talk about Diddy right now. I want to talk about you. Help me understand you.
And the interesting thing about that, according to recent reporting from the Daily Mail and the New York Post, Jonathan Oddie may have signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement with Sean Combs, signing this in exchange for $5 million. And apparently, there is a picture of the NDA signed in 2014 that has surfaced. This is according to the report. You see a signature on it. It's over Sean Combs individually and on behalf of Bad Boy Worldwide, Sean John Enterprises. Is that Sean Combs' signature or not? Possibly. And Oddie went on to apparently tell authorities, quote, "My settlement put me in a box. Basically, I couldn't talk because I was going to be sued. They kept following me." This is what he reportedly said. And you know one of the other reasons that this settlement may be the real deal, that he's telling the truth? because he had been married at one point to this woman named Tanya Troutwine. And the Daily Mail reports that while he claimed in divorce paperwork that he had filed that he was making just $2,000 a month and was in the red when it came to his net worth, less than a month later, he apparently goes on a shopping spree, buys 5 properties for over $765,000, possibly in all cash deals, which again would possibly be consistent with coming into some money, possibly through signing an NDA. And by the way, don't take it just from me. We actually interviewed Tanya Troutwine ourselves, Jonathan Ottie's ex-wife.
I didn't even know about the agreement till he randomly contacted me one night. And it was a few.
So for those tuning in, Diddy paid this guy $5 million in 2014 to keep his mouth shut. Somehow he talks in front of, I guess when he got arrested for shooting in the hotel, bring it back up for leverage.
Few weeks before the shooting, and it was just rambling, and I signed this deal for all this money, and he started just throwing lawyer names left and right. Half I've never heard of. I think Gloria Allred was one of the names I'd heard because I admire her. She was one of my inspirations to actually become a lawyer. I studied her throughout my entire life in her cases. They were very high profile. And he mentioned her, and he mentioned a lot of other lawyers' names. And I was just like, wow, okay, maybe, I was looking at it positively, that something good, but he was not himself. He was frantic. He's, here, you have to take this look. Here's his agreement. And he gave me a lawyer's number to contact that said he had the full agreement. I contacted that lawyer. He gave me the runaround, of course. He did meet with me. He was very kind. He was very friendly with Johnny, but he refused to go into anything to do. And he actually, I try to work with him to co-counsel, to defend Johnny, and, he kind of blocked it. So at that point, I kind of fear, well, he's a little more favorable to the guys paying for the contract than he is Johnny. And I let it go from there.
It was actually an incredible interview. It's up on a prior sidebar that we did earlier in the month. You can check it out. But just to give you a sample, take a look at this.
He still deserves for people to know why he lost it, what went wrong. I do believe it was as a result of a relationship with P. Diddy that's evidenced, by his contract that he signed. When he did provide me a copy of that contract and did give me permission to show it to the public 7 years again and recently in conversations, he did give it to me almost in fear of his life. Like, Tanya, I've talked to everyone. You're the last person I can talk to. Here, take this. That was kind of the way I caught everything. And it's like, who, what, and I was familiar with P. Diddy, when everyone was back in the 90s. And, I haven't, he's become this mogul and kind of behind the scenes. And I hadn't really heard his name again until Johnny brought it up. But yeah, Johnny was an entertainer. He is a local celebrity. Like, you can go around Miami and ask people who he is, and they will know him. I wouldn't doubt it if some of the officers that day did know him, and that's why he's still walking, because he could have lost his life that day for sure.
So, will we hear more about Jonathan Ottie as this trial continues? Let's wait to find out. That's all we have for you right now here.
All right, that was a brief update on past revelations from Jonathan Ottie. 7 years ago, he confessed, and now they have him.
So these were all consenting adults, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to see where are the parents of the children he's supposed to have raped?
Yeah, where are the children? Yeah, where's all that going on?
Yeah, where's that at? That's what I've been waiting for. As far as all these freaks who like to get it in and then try to use I taped you, give me some money, 20 million here, 5 million there. I mean, come on. It's hard to feel sorry for them.
Yes, a big time money grab.
And then they dope it off, put it all up their nose. And now they want more. It's just, I don't know. You know what to say. I'm waiting on the kid stuff. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
So far,
Yes,
everybody's a
I'm
consenting
serious.
adult. And they all were
Yeah, it
professional
was.
prostitutes. Come on.
That's why I'm trying to figure out where is all this, like, all this illegal activity with this. I mean, these people are entertainers and they get paid to do a job. I don't understand what the
And
what's
how
the
did
big deal
Cassie
with it.
know all these people to call
All that
anyway?
shit weird to me.
I
Yeah,
mean, seriously,
she was bringing them to him.
this is what I'm
They
saying.
don't
How does
have.
she know who the dope man is? How does she know who guys are that like other guys? I mean, and then now I'm hearing something about her and Michael B. Jordan or something like that.
Yeah, they had a relationship,
And
or
so
they had
she was a
dealings or
freak
whatever.
before she got with Puffy, and he met her
Yeah,
at
Puppy
16. I
stole.
mean, come on, what's going on?
Puppy stole her from another producer, and her and Lauren London were real good friends, and Lauren London then introduced Nipsey Hussle to Puffy.
So was Lauren part of the freak show? She did
Yeah,
sleep with Lil Wayne.
they saying Puffy was fucking Lauren London too.
Do you believe that? I
That's
don't
why.
believe that.
Well, that's why they was trying to tie Puffy and Nipsey Hussle death in the beginning. They was trying to tie them
I
together,
never
but
felt that in
nobody
my
really knew.
spirit.
Nobody knew the connection. Then all of a sudden it comes out he was fucking Lauren London.
Wow. Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
This whole
And when
thing is
Nipsey
really
Hussle first died, they were saying it was a whole lot of conspiracies, and one of the conspiracies was that Puffy had him hit, but they didn't really have no real substantial reason. They were
don't.
saying it was they was trying to use Puffy as a clutch, uh he had gotten Nipsey Hussle music, and everything kicked off and got him out of contracts and had him took out or whatever the case may be. And so they never did add Laura London was sleeping with Puff, allegedly.
Well, what bothers me the most about all of this is, so J-Lo just gets a pass. Nobody's
Cassie
saying
get
anything about
Cassie get a,
her
Cassie get a pass
interaction with
too.
anything. I
What
mean,
did J-Lo do though?
she was with him for a few years. So was she a freak? Did they have freak offs? How come she's not? How come they're not
I
questioning?
mean, I don't.
She was
Oh,
involved in that. She was involved in
J-Lo got
that
the
whole
fuck away
shooting
from
thing.
his ass.
Yeah, but I mean, why?
That's probably why.
This thing got too freaky. She think got too freaky. She
He
left.
probably like fuck all of that.
Yeah, this is. But I mean,
You
was
think
she
so?
ever drugged? I mean, where are the other women that he drugged and did all this to? Why it's only one person? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know. It's
I
crazy.
think
weird.
Cassie was the one introducing him to the new stuff, and he loved it.
Nah, Cassie tried to run off with his bag.
Right.
She already got it.
No,
Nah,
I'm talking about in
no,
that
I'm talking
when he
about
was
with that
chomping her that day.
elevator shit. You notice she had that motherfucker bag in her hand.
Right.
She probably trying to run over this bag.
Cassie was running stuff. Somebody was training Cassie really well on
I
that.
don't know what the fuck was going on, but
I don't know, because if she was as real as
what nigga
people
you
are
not gonna
saying,
chase a bitch with a towel on?
right?
You feel me? What nigga you not gonna chase a bitch with a towel on?
I
But
don't
the
know
whole
no
thing,
nigga
Down
that
the
the whole
doing
hotel
thing
that.
about that
hallway.
scene,
That's
If
the
that
giving
whole
bitch
$20
ain't got
million.
his bag,
yeah,
she
well
probably
look,
trying to steal his bag.
the whole thing about that scene, she wasn't never really panicking or nothing like that. It wasn't like she was just
No,
like,
he was panicking. Of course, she ain't gonna be panicking.
this is what I'm saying. 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 If she was in real imminent danger, man, motherfucker be running around, beeping that, pressing that bitch, banging on the screen and hollering. Like she wasn't doing none
Right.
of that. That motherfucker fell to the floor, played dead. He kicked her in the ass or something like that.
I
she,
don't know. They was
she
lunching.
went back
All they
up.
ass was lunching.
But this ain't even what this isn't even about domestic violence. She got $20 million for every kick. He had to pay her $1 million. So she got
But the
$20
point,
million.
the point I'm making is though, that was all extra. It was all extra out. She was going right along with that shit.
But what do Cassie got to do with the rest with the shit that he locked up for?
What you
That's what I'm
mean?
trying to figure out.
That's that's the whole thing. She's the one that got the money. He paid her
What do
one
Cassie
day.
got to do with the baby oil?
He paid her one day.
He likes for her to get oily while she's having sex with other men, and then he licks the cum off of her. That's what that's what she said, not me. So I guess they just, and if that's what they're like, what people look, it's people sleeping with animals. It could be worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he
Hey.
said something about they want the cum rubbed on his nipples or something. They was
And was he
busting
doing
nuts.
this because he's so in love with her?
Nah,
Is
what
he
was
this
going
in love
on.
with this girl to where
Listen.
he can't?
The guys they was paying he was paying in the freak off when they was fucking on it, they'll bust on on his nipples. And
Oh,
they'll
they bust
they'll
on
bust on
his
her.
nipples or on hers?
They'll bust on her, but he'll rub the nut on his nipples. He'll rub it and squeeze his nipples while the nut on it.
Oh, Cassie done turned him out.
Yeah, he freaked out for sure.
She done turned him out. I really don't feel sorry for none of them, because this is what happens when you have too much money. You don't know what to do with it. Now you just doing stuff.
They all the way freaked out.
They doing some UFO stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is y'all generation. See, I'm old.
That ain't my generation. They older than me.
This y'all
That's too
this
explicit for my
this whole
eyes.
freak out. But listen,
Hold
Corey
on,
not
this
the
is
first
her
one.
generation.
Nah, they too explicit for my eyes. They older than me.
I'm talking to Corey real. This
Oh,
is
they it
No,
definitely
this wasn't
is.
our generation.
That's your age.
Let me tell you something
yeah.
about my generation. Let me tell you something about my
You and Puff
generation.
around the same age.
Hold on. Let me tell you something about my generation. See, Puffy would have got he would have took the last bit of dope he ever took in his life, because I would have known where all the money was. He would have been drugged and he wouldn't have woke back up, and I would have been gone.
Okay.
That's my generation. See, you can't get caught slipping like that. What they were doing, they were enjoying. They were having pleasure. See, it wasn't
I don't
about the
know what
bag.
the
It wasn't
fuck they
about the
was
bag.
doing, but it wasn't.
It would have been about the bag with me.
Well, look, that's what they said. What you just said. That's what they said was going on.
But he woke up.
Who did he?
Yeah. So they were doing it.
He ain't woke.
He was
That
going to sleep and waking
nigga
up and
is
still having money. Yeah, that wouldn't have happened with my generation.
okay.
No. Not at all.
I'll tell you something. They was doing that. Motown was doing that freaky shit then. They just didn't. The motherfuckers died
Hey,
off. They got
Casey
rid
had
of.
that motherfucker bag packed. She was ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, because I just heard Smokey Robinson talking about he was sleeping with Diana Ross.
Diana
Well,
Ross.
they got Smokey Robinson on charges right now.
Well, good. They need
Man,
to. I
Smokey
remember when I was a
Robinson grown
kid
and shit.
watching
Man,
Smokey
Smokey
do coke.
Robinson old and shit. He don't care.
He need to care.
He don't already hate it.
They
Bill
got
He
Smokey
like,
Cosby was
Robinson.
old
okay.
too,
They
and
got
he ended
Smokey
up in
Robinson
prison.
on sexual assault charges right now.
That's
Good.
weird and shit.
Yeah. They got him.
I don't like him because he
They
said he
say he
wasn't
was
black,
fuck.
so I don't like
They
him
say he
either.
I
was
like
fucking the
him. He
maid.
got some pretty ass and he can sing.
They say he was fucking the maids and stuff.
He probably was.
Yeah, he was doing
They
weird
was
shit
probably
to that.
trying to fuck too, though. They was trying
They
to fuck
saw his.
him.
They know he about to. They know he about to kick the bucket. They gonna get their money.
They knew he had a bag.
Right. I'm not mad
Yeah.
at anybody that's getting paid. Cassie, I don't understand. I think this is all revenge because Puffy let her go. He finally got rid of her. But if I were Puffy, it would be my defense would be I was on drugs.
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe
I
it
would
was
say I was a
revenge.
drug
I don't
addict. I
know
would
what
say
the
I was
fuck is
addicted
going
to
on.
drugs and she
Guess
was
what?
feeding my drug
I
habit.
would be like, man, somebody lace my baby oil. I was just trying to fuck.
Yeah.
I was just trying to fuck. Somebody lace my
But
baby oil. I don't
everybody
know
that's
what the
talking
fuck
to
is
him
going on.
says he was high. Everybody's saying he was high.
They
Everybody
probably
that
laced this
I
baby
heard.
oil.
Hey, I don't know about that baby oil stuff.
I don't know either, but they tripping.
But I know they put cocaine on their private parts, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
They be doing too much. Everybody, I don't know. Yeah, they do the
But what
private.
got me was how did you have a freak off if she was having sex for over 11 hours? Did she say?
She probably enjoyed every bit of it.
She's a super freak.
She might like it.
Well, yeah, they needed IVs after
I
Man,
the
think
I
she
dude.
don't
said she
know.
did like it, didn't she?
They was fucking till they needed
Yeah, I mean,
IVs.
anytime you go in 4 days straight,
Damn,
and
they
you
was
need an
fucking till they
IV.
needed an IV.
4 days straight. They was
Damn.
high as a kite. They was
They
flying. They was in another world.
I mean,
They was in another world.
you can do that in your
they
teens and
was whips and they
20s and
was freaky.
shit.
Oh my God.
They
This is
crazy.
beyond even my imagination.
I'm scared.
This one's
They-
wild.
I don't know.
It's too many men involved with this for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm
She didn't
saying.
have no problem with him being with a man.
Check this guy out right here. Let's go to News Nation. Diddy trial witness the Punisher says freak off seemed natural.
Next up on the stand,
These are all
after Cassie's mom
homosexuals.
stepped down, a man who goes by the name, wait for it, the Punisher. The Punisher is an exotic dancer and former sex worker whose real name is Sheree Hayes. Mr. Hayes told the jury that he got his nickname playing basketball, but his photos, they seem to tell a different story for why he may be using that name today. Ooh, kind of safe for work, almost not safe for work. I wouldn't put it up at work, but that's the Punisher, y'all.
I can see where
Mr.
Puffy would
Punisher
want that.
testified that he was hired by Diddy and Cassie for 8 to 12 different times, things like episodes. And
She
he
said,
was
"That's
meant
the
to create
Punisher,
these
y'all."
sexy scenes that would last for
Okay.
hours. He said that Diddy called all the shots in these episodes. He didn't call them freak-offs, but he described what we've heard as freak-offs. He never saw any cameras, he said. He didn't see any violence. And he said, although Cassie would sometimes wince or sigh at some of the sex directions that came from Diddy, he said it didn't seem as though Cassie was there against her will. Again, this is a prosecution witness, so that's kind of, it's on the fence there. He does certainly corroborate the freak-offs and what happened in the freak-offs, but that whole business about, to him, he wasn't sure if Cassie was into it or not, but he did hear that she winced and that she sighed as Diddy gave a lot of those directions. By the way, the Punisher also said that he never saw Diddy take drugs, never saw that he seemed drunk or high, which is exactly what prosecutors are trying to show, that this was not just an out-of-control, party of an enlisted megastar, but instead was a clear-eyed criminal enterprise. And I mentioned it off the top of the show.
Well, they got high
So
before
I'm
he
happy
came.
now to introduce the man who spent the better part of today on the witness stand. Sheree, the Punisher Hayes, joins me now live. Mr. Hayes, it's really good of you to be here. Thank you so much for doing this. I can imagine you've had a hell of a
Like
day.
a ding-a-ling.
Definitely a challenging day today.
So tell me a little bit about it. Like, how was it? How'd you feel up there? Like, give me a summary and a description of what that day was like for you.
Well, it's very nerve-wracking. There's nothing you can do to really prepare yourself for that type of environment. Very tense scenario, very serious atmosphere, and I just kept a mind frame of from the time I've been contacted by investigators. It's just give my version of the truth, what I can remember to the best of my ability, and that's what I tried to do today.
So I know that you talked about this on the stand, but I want to just sort of flesh it out with you a little, because we get court sketches. There's no cameras in court, so it's really good to have you in person. When you say that it was clear that Diddy was directing the sex scenes and the sex acts, because as you described, it started off as just a sexy scene, but it progressed into actual sex over the course of the free-cost. What kind of direction did you get the sense? Like aggressive, mean, demanding, or just, hey, this is kinky, let's do this?
Not even as I described in the text. They were very subtle. Mr. Combs was always basically across the room, and it would be in a low tone, and it would just be suggestive. It was nothing aggressive, nothing that would create some sort of scenario that this was like unnatural between them. Obviously, a sexual scenario with a couple is not the norm, but it's something that I had heard about before, and there's some couples that get into this, and in hindsight, if there were no accusations, I would have saw it as completely natural.
Can you repeat that? You would have seen it as what?
If there was no accusations, like in hindsight, all this stuff is in hindsight. Like in the moment, I didn't see it as anything but a couple doing something risque, and Cassie as a partner trying to create a fantasy for who I believed was her husband, and for the majority of this.
Salute DNW shout out to everybody tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that add button, follow button. Right now, this is the Punisher. Right now, this is the Punisher.
You can't even say it right.
Right now, this is the Punisher. This is one of freak off. This is a top performer in the freak offs of the Diddy situation.
The head guy.
Cassie. One of the head busters. And
That's crazy.
You always be the motherfucking goddamn can't talk motherfucker, goddamn packing out. I thought I was just being used.
Natural.
Always.
From where I was sitting, it was quite natural.
Motherfucker, man.
They just want to be risque.
Motherfucking this extraterrestrial looking motherfucker, man. You telling me this motherfucker goddamn doing all this?
Oh, yeah,
I thought I was being used as a love bond between two couples and bringing them together.
A little risque.
This is the Punisher, y'all.
So at one point in your testimony, I think you mentioned, and I was just reading transcript because, of course, there's
but
no
he was
cameras.
a friend of Cassie's, though, right?
You mentioned that Sean Combs was slightly aggressive in his tone, and that Cassie would sigh or wince at some of his direction. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I understand that you're getting it in parts. It was quite a long testimony. When the sighing and the wincing was associated with some of the direction was very specific, and it could be one after the other in terms of move the candle to the left, move it a little more, move it a little more, and now move your body a little more, stuff like that. And it was kind of unnatural for a scenario where you're trying to create a sexual situation. So my understanding or my interpretation of it in the moment was frustration with the repeated directions.
So it felt to you when you were there like it was frustration, but it did not feel to you when you were there like she did not want to be in the situation she was in with you.
It did not.
The other question I have for you is, I think I read that this began in was it right, 2012, that the first time you were hired?
That's correct.
So that would seem fairly early on, perhaps in the free cops in their relationship. And it felt to me like in the beginning, you did not actually have any kind of sex with Cassie in front of Diddy in those hotel rooms. It was just performative, but that it graduated in the later free cops to sexual acts. Did it seem to you, now that you're hearing a lot more of the story, that this was the beginning of the whole freak off adventure for them, that they were kind of figuring it out themselves as well, and that maybe it progressed a lot further and got a lot less appealing to Cassie, maybe later after you had moved on and weren't in the picture?
So I'm instructed to not necessarily follow any of the details. So I just really know what my interaction with was. And it was always like almost a start over scenario, because like I said in my testimony, it wasn't consistent. Like I would get called maybe once every 4 months, so long periods of time would go in between. So it would definitely be kind of like an odd situation, but not in a way where I can assess. There was some sort of progression that went on from the time we started to the time we ended. It was pretty consistent all the way through.
Well, may I commend you in following the orders of the court and not having consumed a lot of information about this before your testimony, because that would have been an easy question for you to answer had you known all the background, right, that we're all learning in court. So congratulations and good for you. You're a model witness, and I appreciate you doing that. That's true justice. I do want to press a little bit on this aspect of from the first free cough until the last free cough that you did. Did you sense that they were getting more practiced at it and that it was a lot more sexual right away? First, it was performative and just, a show, and then it became actual sex towards the end. Was there anything different between episode 1 and say episode, maybe maximum 12? That seems to be the max number that you performed with them. Did 12 seem a lot more, like it was a machine that was ready to go?
Actually, the opposite. It was very routine, like a very consistent routine. It always started the same, some sort of a scenario where we would be across from each other on couches that were covered with sheets. It always had to start with a baby oil, with me rubbing it on myself, her doing the same, escalating to us rubbing each other, and then escalating into small sex acts, leading into actual penetration. It was very methodical and pretty much the same. I can't say there was a different energy from start to finish. It pretty much stayed the course of whatever the criteria was from the first time going forward. And the first time was actually the only time there was an actual sexual interaction. And it was offered, as I said in my testimony, but I declined.
So one of the other escorts who had done some of the same things in these free cops that you were hired for said that at one point, Sean Combs was very violent with Cassie, and that he took her in the other room, and that he heard slapping and beating, and that when they came out, Diddy wanted them to continue and finish strong. That was his words, apparently, allegedly, finish strong. But that the male escort couldn't. He said, I had erectile dysfunction at that point because of what I'd gone through. And I know, like, you wrote a whole book called In Search of Freezer Meat about that, about erectile dysfunction and how difficult it can be. And I think you might have mentioned that it actually happened to you during one of your free cops with Diddy and Cassie, that you had the same kind.
Now, I want to remind you, this guy has a #1 seller, In Search of Freezer Meat.
In Search of Freezer Meat. And can you break that down as to what that means?
It's an erectile dysfunction. It's like you got a hard ice, hard ice.
What?
You can't feel nothing.
Wait
You
a
just
minute.
got
He has a hard on, but he can't feel it.
What?
some of the times he said he was having erectile
I thought
dysfunction, meaning
erectile dysfunction is where you can't get hard.
it can't get hard. It's just a piece of meat.
Okay, but wait. You just
What?
said he had a hard ice cream, but he couldn't feel it. Which one? What
What?
is it?
Which one?
The freezer meat is
We better Google this.
freezer meat is a block of meat.
What? I'm trying to figure this one out.
Google it, because I don't know. I don't think Pimpin knows what this is.
He said he's searching freezer
This
meat.
is beyond his scope.
Freezer meat.
Freezer meat.
Freezer meat is when
It's
something is
about-
hard and frozen, but
Yeah, it's good. It's still fresh.
Let's see. I see it right here. Searching freezer meat. A story of male. Okay, here you go. A story of male mental. A story of male mental health crisis caused by erectile dysfunction, and the only cure.
It's
No
freezer
one
meat.
is talking about a penis implant.
Well, we gotta put the meat in the freezer.
wait, hold on, wait a minute, hold on. The only cure is to get an implant put in.
Yeah, if you look at
I mean,
hold on.
but if you get an
Hold on.
implant put in, it's gonna
If you
forever
look at
stay
the cover
hard.
art, if you look at the
Like, what
cover
you gonna
art,
do?
right? He's at the freezer and the girl is on the sofa. She's saying he must not be into me, and he's in the freezer saying, "Where's my meat?" In search of freezer meat. I told
Okay,
y'all.
look, I'm too old for this whole thing. This is that new shit.
This is a New York Times bestseller.
This that new.
This is a New York Times bestseller. What are you talking about?
I'm not talking about it because I don't know nothing
This is a
about it.
bestseller. This is a bestseller.
I never heard of a freezer meat.
Freezer meat. He
Tell me
can't
this is
find
new
his
stuff.
meat. Listen. Listen. It's a hype. Listen. He's being metaphoric. He's looking in the freezer for his meat.
So did
We
he
should
go
have kept
get?
his
Oh, he
meat
went
in
and got
the
a new
freezer.
meat
You
put
would
in.
know it was in the freezer.
No, you're not. It's a metaphor.
God.
You gotta understand.
God.
He's being metaphoric. He's saying he can't get a hard on. He can't find his meat. So he's in the freezer in search of freezer meat.
Oh, what?
Wait, you still lost me.
I'm still lost. So he should have kept his meat in the freezer.
Okay, listen. He's
Told
being
you I'm too old for
metaphorical.
this
He's
nonsense.
being metaphorical. He's talking about his penis. He's speaking on his
Okay,
penis.
I'm talking about his penis.
Okay, we get that
He's
part.
speaking on
Okay,
his
hold
penis.
on now.
Listen, he's speaking on his penis, but he's using the meat in the freezer as a
as a metaphor for his
penis.
Well, he should have kept
It's an
his meat
empty freezer. He's in search.
freezer.
He's having erectile dysfunction. His meat's not working.
Well, that's what
Okay, we got that part.
So he can't find his meat.
Well, his meat should have stayed in the freezer.
Ain't nothing
Okay, so
in
wait.
the freezer empty. It's brand new. The freezer brand new. Ain't no meat in there.
Well,
So
he should have kept it in the freezer.
I don't know. Free the meat or free puppy?
He should have beat the freezer, the meat.
Listen, this is the New York Times #1 seller
It
right
should
now.
be in there.
This is a
And
#1 seller.
It could be.
It should not be outside the
bestseller of
freezer.
what? I wouldn't know.
The
what you're
meat
talking
should not be outside the freezer.
Look, I don't know. I don't know.
Look at
I
the
don't know.
It's common sense. It's
Now
common
look at
sense.
the cover.
It's
Look at the
common
cover.
sense. They
The
do not
lady-
take a rocket scientist. It do not take a
Listen,
scientist.
the lady is
The fuck
on
is wrong
the
with people?
lady's on the sofa. She's on the sofa. She's saying he must not be into me. He's
Man, fuck all
he's
that.
in
He
the
need to put his
freezer.
meat in the freezer then.
No, he's saying, "Where's my meat?" He can't find his meat. He got erectile dysfunction.
Well, he
Okay,
should have
wait
put
a
it in
minute,
the
wait a minute,
freezer.
wait a minute, wait a minute. I remember
Even
watching.
having
I remember
erectile
watching All the
dysfunction.
Queen's Men, and they had to use these things to keep theirs hard, or it wouldn't stay hard, or
What
something.
things?
Some kind of round things that go on them. I don't know.
Girl, I don't know. They need to figure they meat out.
They need to thaw they me out.
Okay, or
Where's
something. Do
CJ? He would
something.
know all this. Did you get CJ in?
Yeah, I see.
They need to do something with the meat because
But yeah, this a New York
it's where
Times
the meat
article.
gonna go bad if they don't figure it out.
Honey, I think this. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know.
Bitch, I know.
This
I
is
mean,
new
I
age.
don't
This
mean to
that
call
new
you a
age
bitch
stuff.
because you sound like you older than me, and I respect people.
Yeah, because I don't. This is y'all generation of stuff. My generation didn't do all this.
Nah, man, these people in their
Nah,
50s.
this go with the fake. This go with the new butts and the new titties and all that.
Man,
All of that.
but so I don't know. What's going on?
Kind of issue. Was it at all based on violence or aggression?
No, it was not based on violence and aggression. I think for me, there was no true, at times, for me, I could not get into a place of intimate connection. There was always a discomfort with, obviously, a male partner just being present, period. And then, like I said, with the direction, the move to the left, the move to the right, to do this, to do that, in terms of me maintaining like an erotic space of being turned on or whatever, it was difficult. So it was just more of, it felt like acting opposed to
So
an
y'all
actual
like was Cassie a
natural
beard?
sexual scenario.
Did you ever know another escort by the name of Jules in LA?
The truth of the matter is, I was in a naive state. My very first interaction, I was told it was, she went by Janet. I had no idea who they were. And she introduced herself as Janet and said this was her birthday and this was something special her and her husband was doing. So the majority of the time, actually the entire time, even when I found out who they were initially, I really believed I was the only guy they were involved with. I thought this was
But had you ever heard of had you ever heard of an escort named Jules?
I have not. I'm not in the male escort business. I'm actually a stripper that took a proposition, but is not somebody I would commingle with in terms of interactions.
And then last quick question, sir. Did they offer you, did the feds offer you immunity at all at any step of the way as they were, prepping you to be a witness for this trial?
No, there was no talk of immunity of anything. From what I understood, I was not charged with any crime or there was any issue where I would need immunity in regards to this matter.
Sheree Hayes, I can't thank you enough for being so forthcoming and candid and agreeing to talk to me on this program tonight. I really appreciate it. I also appreciate you walking into federal court and getting up on a witness stand and talking about stuff that's pretty uncomfortable. The justice system relies on witnesses being fair and truthful and doing what you did, no matter how hard it is. And it is real hard. So thank you so much.
Real hard.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me and thank you so much.
Can I ask you one quick question? Do you think Sean Combs is guilty of sex trafficking and the crimes that he's actually accused of and racketeering?
I mean, again, like I said, I really, this has been a high place of anxiety for me. So it wasn't just being a good witness and follow directions. I really avoid the details. I think the totality of the situation for everybody involved is just extremely sad and difficult and just a black eye experience on everybody involved. And I just think it's unfortunate. I don't have the legal understanding to levy the evidence and come to a determination of what I think or don't think. I just think it's an unfortunate situation for everyone.
Well, I am super appreciative. Thank you again, Sheree Hayes.
Anytime. Have a good day.
Okay.
Sure,
You too. And I just want to tell our viewers as well before we move on that we did reach out to Sean Combs' attorneys today. We requested a statement from them, but we have not heard back. Understandable, they are in trial. It's the busiest time for a lawyer.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Yeah, Nancy Grace would have did a whole lot of damage with that guy. I can see that now. But yeah, that was the Punisher.
The Punisher.
And
every time you say that, that's hilarious.
that was funny. You didn't see him in this little dominatrix shit with the chest out of his.
I saw a little bit. I wanted to see the whole picture. I don't
Yeah,
know why they only show a little bit.
You see him with his mask on. He had his mask on and everything.
Talking about he was naive. Boy, shut up. He was naive. Yeah, you was naive, all right. They just killed me. It made me a little uncomfortable that he was in there. Please, butt naked. You're a little uncomfortable.
It's crazy.
So I'm just, none of them are children. Every one of them are in the sex industry. I just can't see why this case is even on TV.
Yeah, they might as well put it on TV the way they going at it. Like, it's unreal. Like I said, man, there's a lot of stuff up here I wasn't expecting.
So did they have some kids scheduled? Or was that just a scare tactic or something?
I don't know. I've yet to see anything. I mean, they've been saying it and saying it and saying it, but nothing seems to pop up, or they
I
don't
don't
show
hear
anything.
any of the witnesses talking about there were kids. I mean, I'm just waiting to see. If it was some kids, I want him to hang.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a witch hunt, no doubt about it. But how far are they gonna go is the question.
What's Trump saying about it?
No, he's not even bringing it up.
What? I'm talking about when y'all sitting down privately. What did he say?
Stay away from the Diddy case. It's horrible. That's what he said.
What he
Stay
said?
away from the Diddy case. It's horrible.
I'm going to free him. I'm going to pardon
Really,
him.
stay away from the Diddy case. You don't want that. That's what he said. I don't know what the fuck got in the puff with all that shit, man. That's crazy. I mean, you gotta look at the dynamics of this stuff, man. I mean, he really had all this going on at the same time. He getting keys to the city, but the stuff they accusing him right now is just flat out nonsense compared to other stuff. So I mean, like, this is just horrible. I think this is just a railroad. They just trying to run it up on Puff as much as they can. Let's go to 9 wild moments from Kid Cudi's P. Diddy trial testimony. What the? Subscribe to Law and Crime Network.
At a sidebar that he was going to move for a mistrial because he expected Muscati to answer that Combs was violent and he had been told that Combs had had other people killed. The defense is adamant it's highly prejudicial against Combs, but the government says they're just trying to get him to sex trafficking trial and tells the jury about his Porsche being torched while he was dating Cassie.
This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me.
I look at 9 moments from the rapper's testimony and what had the courtroom laughing. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Kid Cudi, of course, is a rapper. He's an actor and a producer. But this week, he added Diddy trial witness to his list of titles. His legal name is actually Scott Muscudi. And he walked into court, raised his right hand, and as any other witness would, swore to tell the truth. You might be thinking, I thought this trial was about sex trafficking and prostitution. Well, it is. But Sean Combs also faces a racketeering conspiracy charge, or RICO. He's accused of using his businesses to carry out and cover up crimes. And Kid Cudi, the government alleges, is the victim of one of those crimes, specifically arson. Combs, for his part, has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges, and he maintains his relationship with ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura was one that involved domestic violence, but not sex trafficking. And Cassie is the connection between Combs and Kid Cudi. Back in 2011, Kid Cudi, or Scott Muscudi, testified that he and Cassie were dating. He believed that she was broken up with Sean Combs at the time, but that may not have been completely true. Kid Cudi took the stand wearing jeans, a leather jacket, and a white shirt, and he told the jury about that night in December 2011 when Cassie called him very upset. Muscudi testified, well, I got a call from Cassie around 5:30 or 6 a.m., and she told me that Sean Combs had found out about us. I was really confused, but she asked me to pick her up. She sounded really stressed on the phone, nervous, scared, so I went to go pick her up, and yeah. Muscudi went on to explain why he was confused. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson asked, you testified that Ms. Ventura told you Mr. Combs found out about us. What was your understanding of what Mr. Combs had found out? Muscudi answered that me and her were dating. Johnson asked, and you also testified that you were confused when you heard that. Muscudi answered yes. Johnson asked, why were you confused? Muscudi answered, because I didn't think she was dealing with him. Johnson asked, and you mentioned that you went to pick her up. Is that right? Muscudi answered, yes. Muscudi testified that he drove Ventura to a hotel in Los Angeles about 15 minutes from his home. Then he got a call from a woman who was a friend of Cassie's and an assistant of Sean Combs. Her name was Capricorn Clark. Clark said that Sean Combs and an affiliate were in my house and she was in a car. She was forced to go along with them over there. Johnson asked, and what, if anything, did Ms. Capricorn say about where she was at the moment? Muscudi said, she was in a car outside of my house waiting for them. Johnson asked, and what, if anything, did Capricorn say about where Mr. Combs was at that moment? Attorney Brian Steele objected and it was overruled. Muscudi testified, in my house. Johnson asked, after you spoke to Capricorn, what did you do next? Muscudi answered, I got in my car and went to my house. Johnson asked, that phone call? No. Johnson followed up, did anyone go with you when you went to your house after that phone call? Muscudi answered, no. Muscudi said he drove to his house. It was a 15-minute drive or so from the hotel, as I mentioned, where he was with Cassie. And on the way, he called Sean Combs. He had his number from years ago. He described what he said to Sean Combs. Muscudi testified, I'm going to be very candid. I said, mother effer, are you in my house? And he was like, what's up? I was like, mother effer, are you in my house? And he said, I just want to talk to you. I was like, I am on my way over right now. He was like, I'm here. Muscudi said that Combs' voice was calm. He drove to his house, which he said had security cameras, but they weren't working that night. When he arrived, Muscudi said the cameras appeared as if they had been moved to the side. Muscudi said, some gifts that I bought for my family were opened, some stuff I got from Chanel, and then my dog was locked up in my bathroom. Our content shows just how important personal safety is, and that is especially true when it comes to protecting your privacy online. You would be absolutely shocked at how much of your personal information is out there, like addresses and phone numbers. Ever wonder why you get so many of those annoying spam calls and emails? That's because this information is all public. That's where our sponsor Incogni comes in. It's a service that helps you take control of your online privacy by removing your personal data from data brokers, huge companies that sell and trade your info without your permission. Incogni found more than 50 brokers with my information. Can you believe that? And here's the kicker. These data brokers have to remove you from their database if you ask them to. Now you're thinking, Anjanette, who in the heck has time to contact a data broker? Well, that again is where Incogni comes in. They contact those companies for you to get your online safety back. You don't have to do a thing, and then they alert you after the request has been completed. After signing up, I get virtually no spam now. So I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. Right now, anyone who uses the code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix gets 60% off. That's a great deal. And again, it's code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix for 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Muscati said he filed a police report about the break-in, and then he spent Christmas with Cassie at her parents' home in Connecticut. Johnson asked, directing your attention to January of 2012, did there come a time when you learned that your car had caught on fire? Muscati answered yes. Johnson asked, how did you learn that your car caught fire? Muscati answered, my dog's babysitter called me in the morning. Now keep in mind, it's 6:30 or 7 in the morning. The questioning continued. Johnson asked, what was your understanding of where your dog's babysitter was located when she called you? Muscati said, at my house. Johnson asked, was it your understanding that your dog's babysitter was telling you what was happening in real time? Muscati answered, yes. Johnson asked, and what did your dog's babysitter say to you about what she saw? Muscati answered, she told me my car was on fire. Johnson asked, was anyone...
Woman did it?
Salute shout to everybody tuning in. Yeah, right now this is Kid Cudi speaking on Puffy and the car blowing up mysteriously.
Didn't they say that a woman did that though? That it was a female on the camera, it wasn't a male? They talking about Cassie was the one who really blew his car up?
No, it's somebody else.
But the fact that she was messing around with him while she was messing with, Cassie was doing a lot.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I mean, they was all doing their little freaky stuff, but she was doing a lot.
No doubt. She was matter of fact, she was getting all the dates for him. So that's why I'm trying to figure out how is she not
And the drugs. So I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
Make it make
somehow
sense.
Yeah, but this is Kid Cudi and his
She
testimony.
knew Paul,
what
she
he had.
knew everything. And like
Yeah,
the
they
man
had
said, he
one
didn't
guy.
even know he didn't even know it was Puffy. So he must have been sitting in a dark place or something. I don't know. I can't wrap my own mind around this.
The drug dealer he'll pick up the drugs and he'll pick up Plan B also.
Mm.
So they was up there ordering Coke and pills and Plan B.
And frozen meat.
Some of them motherfuckers had frozen meat.
That's so funny to me. This is hilarious.
Some of them had funny meat, but here's Kid Cudi.
Anyone else present at your house at the time? Muscati said no. Johnson asked, where were you? Muscati said, I was at my ex-girlfriend's sister's house. Johnson asked, approximately how far away from your house were you? Muscati answered, like 45 minutes or something like that. Johnson asked, where was your car at the time your babysitter called? Muscati said, in the driveway. Muscati said his friend Chip took photos of the Porsche as he drove back to his house. The photos show a hole in the top of the Porsche. There's also damage to the driver's seat from where the Molotov cocktail left burn marks, and there's damage to the door. The car was so badly damaged, Muscati said it couldn't be repaired. When he arrived at his house, he said the bottle from the Molotov cocktail was on the ground. It had been in the driver's seat. When asked his reaction to his car being torched, it was very simple. Muscati said, he said, "What the F word?" Muscati said the cops were at his house and he filed a police report, and it was his understanding this was no accident. A couple of days later, Muscati said he had his manager set up a meeting with Combs through his head of security, D-Rock, at the Soho house. Muscati testified, "I walked in and I met D-Rock. He was escorting me into the room, and then I got to the room. It was one wall was all windows, and Sean Combs was standing there staring out the window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. Yeah, it was just me and him in the room. No security, nobody." Muscati said, "We discussed, pretty much the whole story about how me and Cassie first started to date to what it was to how it ended. And his whole point was, we were homies, that was my girl. I let him know that, she told me they were broken up and I took her word for it. Yeah." Johnson asked, "What was Mr. Combs' demeanor during this meeting?" Muscati said, "Very calm. He kept offering me water. He offered me water twice." Johnson asked, "What was your reaction to his demeanor?" Muscati said, "It was very off-putting. It was weird that he was so calm." Muscati said Cassie then showed up, and he testified he was upset to find out that she had gone back to Sean Combs. He told the jury, quote, "She pretty much kind of explained that we fell in love and things just happened and, Muscati testified, "Yeah, we stood up, shook hands, and as I was shaking his hand, I said, 'What are we going to do about my car?' I made sure to ask him right when our hands were clasped together, where he couldn't run away and I could look at him square in his eyes. And he looked right back at me, very cold stare, and said, 'I don't know what you're talking about.' I said, 'Okay.' I took my hand from his and he said, 'Wait, I thought we were cool. Is there a problem?' I was like, 'You said you didn't burn my car, right? You said that's your word.' He said, 'Yeah.' I was like, 'That's it.'" When asked again, Muscati said Combs's tone of voice was very calm. And after that day, there were no more break-ins at his home and no more car fires. A couple of years later, Muscati said he saw Combs at the Soho house again, this time with his daughter. He said Combs said, "Man, I just want to apologize for everything and all of the BS." There were no more conflicts with Sean Combs, and Muscati said he made peace with it. Then came the cross-examination by attorney Brian Steele, who represented Young Thug. Steele set out to score some points, and he did. Steele questioned Muscati about whether he knew that fingerprints and DNA samples were taken from his Porsche back in 2012. Muscati said he called police about the incident a few times, but was not aware that DNA from the car came back as a female sample. Steele also pointed out that there were no sightings of Sean Combs around Muscati's property. Then the conversation turned to Cassie Ventura. Muscati confirmed that Cassie ended their relationship in January of 2012, and he was confused because they had been talking and seeing each other for about a year. And he said at that time he wasn't aware that Cassie was seeing Sean Combs at the same time. Steele asked, "Ms. Ventura was not frank with you, true?" Muscati answered, "True." Steele asked, "She played you. That was your words, right?" Muscati said yes. Steele asked, "You had no clue. When she played you, she was convincing about that, right?" Muscati said, "No clue." Steele asked, "You were with her a lot, right?" Muscati said, "Mm-hmm." Steele asked, "True?" Muscati said yes. Steele then pointed out that Sean Combs actually asked Muscati in 2011 to do a song with Cassie Ventura. That was how the two met. Steele asked, "You were in a studio doing your art with Ms. Ventura, that true?" Muscati said yes. Steele asked, "And that's how you guys really became close, right?" Muscati said, "We were cool before." Muscati asked, "And this didn't hurt your relationship, right? It was nice. You enjoyed the time with her, true?" Muscati said, "Yeah, it was truly just friends at that time." Steele asked, "Mr. Combs wasn't around you and Ms. Ventura when you were with her, right?" Muscati said no. Steele asked, "And she wasn't getting all these text messages from him to your knowledge when you were with her, right?" Muscati said, "Not to my knowledge." Steele also confirmed with Muscati that Cassie told him that Combs was physically abusive toward her, but she never told Muscati that Sean Combs sexually abused her. Steele also got Muscati to say that Cassie Ventura was living two different lives when she was spending time with him. And during that meeting with Combs at the Soho House in 2012, after his car was torched, he said Combs was gracious, made no threats, and had no weapons on him. During redirect, Emily Johnson used Muscati to remind the jury about incidents where Cassie and Capricorn Clark confided in him about Combs's volatile behavior. Toward the end, Muscati admitted that it was that behavior that made him walk away from his relationship with Cassie. Johnson asked, "Why did your relationship with Ms. Ventura end despite having feelings for her?" Muscati said the drama was just getting out of hand and kind of wanted to give her some space. Johnson said, "What drama are you talking about?" Muscati said the break-in and everything. Johnson asked, "Why did you want to give it space?" Muscati said, "Just feels like things were just getting out of hand, and for my safety, for her safety, I just thought." Muscati's responses prompts an objection in a sidebar where the parties go back and forth about whether or not it's proper for the jury to hear the rest of what he was going to say. Steele told judge at a sidebar that he was going to move for a mistrial because he expected Muscati to answer that Combs was violent, and he had been told that Combs had had other people killed. The defense is adamant it's highly prejudicial against Combs, but the government says they're just trying to get him to talk about his safety concerns that he had at the end of his relationship with Cassie. Ultimately, the judge decided that Emily Johnson must move on from this type of questioning. The testimony of Kid Cudi ended with him telling the jury that he believed that Sean Combs lied to him.
So what was it like in the courtroom when Kid Cudi was testifying? Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime was there. So Elizabeth, were the jurors, did it seem like they knew who Kid Cudi was when he walked in and took the stand?
Yeah, it didn't seem that way from what I could tell, but I feel like from everyone in the gallery, they were there and they were ready to see Kid Cudi, see him walk inside that courtroom. It felt kind of like a movie moment a little bit where everyone's turned around and then all of a sudden he just walks across to the witness stand, takes his seat, does the oath, all that. But, him coming in, he was super casual. He had a motorcycle jacket. He had a white t-shirt on. Even like from other witnesses that I could see testifying, they're always in suits. They're in more professional type of wear and that thing. But as far as Kid Cudi is concerned, yeah, motorcycle jacket, his earring, his jeans, just walked up to the stand pretty casual. I didn't see the cigarette smoking or anything like that. But, when he was on the stand, he was very casual even throughout. He just seemed like he was just there to kind of speak his piece, say his part, and then just kind of move on from it. And he seemed like he was just kind of just ready to get this part over with for sure.
And he seemed like he was a little bit of a charmer, actually, on the stand. And I'm getting that just from the transcripts because it sounds like he was just authentic. He was just him. And there were some laughs from what I understand in the courtroom from some of his testimony, even though this is not a laughing matter. Tell me what happened with the laughing.
Yeah, so he had some interesting one-liners when he was on the stand testifying, a lot during the direct. So one of the big things was just his reaction to his car.
Yeah, so these are, updates on the Kid Cudi and everything he talked about. He came to the realization that Cassie was playing both of them. So he stepped aside after the car bombing and everything else. Let's go to let's go to Law and Crime Network. Baby all in costumes. P. Diddy stripper. The Punisher tails off.
I did understand that there was a kind of like a sexy scene, as I described it in my testimony, that wanted to be created.
Sheree Hayes, the former stripper known as Punisher, is telling all. about his time with Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs during freak-offs. Do you have any regrets? And Hayes tells me what it was like to testify in Combs' trial. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sheree Hayes, the Punisher, took center stage at Sean Combs' sex trafficking trial this week. He used the name Punisher while working as an exotic dancer. And back in 2012, he got a call from a woman who used the name Janet, and that would lead to him being called as a witness in this trial. Janet, Hayes said, was actually Cassie Ventura, and she claimed that her husband had wanted her to hire a dancer for her and her friends for her birthday. Hayes told the jury when he arrived at the Trump Hotel on Central Park West that night, he went to the room and a woman wearing only a bathrobe and a wig was in the bathroom. Hayes said the woman told him that she and her husband wanted him to help them create a sexy scene with baby oil. And there was a lot of baby oil involved, let me tell you. Hayes obliged. Janet, after all, was a beautiful woman. He would tell the jury he didn't know who these people were at first, but months later, he would discover it was Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura. Combs, Hayes said, would direct Ventura in these sexual encounters as Combs watched, sometimes masturbating, appearing with a bottle of lubricant in his hand. As far as Hayes could tell, this appeared to be consensual, but Cassie Ventura had told the jury earlier in the trial that she was open to this activity, the freak-offs, at first, but then later, she felt she had no choice but to participate. Combs is on trial, charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for purposes of prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty to all of these charges, and his attorneys have said what went on between him and Cassie Ventura was domestic violence, not sex trafficking, and they say he is not a racketeer. It will be up to the jury to decide whether or not that is true.
So joining me now is Sheree Hayes, the man who was one of the witnesses here in Sean Combs' trial. Thanks so much for joining me, Sheree. First of all, how are you feeling after testifying in this trial that the world is literally watching, not on television, but everybody's following along in this trial and seeing your name?
Well, at this point, I'm definitely relieved from the pressure associated with testifying. It was very nerve-wracking. So much weight, so much is at stake, and kind of being in the middle where my testimony can kind of sway it to either direction. It was a difficult space to be in. But I'm pleased with my testimony in terms of it just being truthful and accurate based on what I could recall. So after it's all done, I'm actually at peace and in a pretty good space.
Take me back to when you first, were in touch with members of the prosecution team, the government. I mean, how did you get in touch with them? Was this after the raid on Sean Combs' properties and they asked for people who had information to come forward? How did this come about?
Literally, I was just home one day, and this was probably sometime between March and May. I know it was springtime, and I just got a call from my doorman saying, "You have a guest in the lobby." And I showed up, and it was, "Hey, can we talk to you?" And I had no idea what it's for, so I wanted to have the conversation right in the lobby. And they were like, was in reference to Mr. Sean Combs. And I was like, yeah, come upstairs. And they just kind of said, "Hey, look, we got your name as far as being a participant in this scenario." And honestly, me personally, I didn't think my testimony on my role in it was significant. I didn't have a full understanding, I guess, from the legal aspect of trafficking and accusations that they said they were investigating. But I didn't think my participation applied to any of the charges.
Our content really shows how important personal safety is, and that's especially true when it comes to protecting your privacy online. You would be shocked at how much of your personal information is out there, like your address and phone number. Ever wonder why you get so many spam calls and emails? That's because this information is all public. That's where our sponsor, Incogni, comes in. It's a service that helps you take control of your online privacy by removing your personal data from data brokers, huge companies that sell and trade your info without your permission. Incogni found more than 50 plus brokers with my information And here's the kicker. These data brokers have to remove you from their database if you ask them to. Now you're probably thinking, Anjanette, who in the heck has time to contact a data broker? Well, that again is where Incogni comes in. They contact those companies for you to get your online safety back. You don't have to do a thing, and then they alert you after the request has been completed. After signing up, I get virtually no spam now. So I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. Right now, anyone who uses code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix gets 60% off. That's code CrimeFix at incogni.com/crimefix for 60% off an annual Incogni plan.
So this was after March of last year.
Yeah, this was sometime between March and May of last year.
Between March and May of last year. So they got your name somehow, whether it was from Casa Ventura, the phones, some way, and they come to you and they ask you about all of this. Were these Homeland Security agents, or do you know who they were?
Yeah, it was just a Homeland Security agent, and he was chaperoned by like a regular NYPD officer.
Mm. So you sit down and talk to them. I'm assuming give a statement.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly at the time, I really strongly, I guess in my legal evaluation, thought I was insignificant. So I kind of gave them like a lighthearted recount of what I could remember at the time. And it was similar to my testimony, probably more summarized. But I just said, hey, I've seen them about this amount of times. This is how it was. I kind of reenacted the scenario similar to my court testimony. And I really did not expect to hear from them again in regards to that.
So when did you find out that the government indeed wanted you to testify, to take the stand?
Probably just literally a couple of months ago. Everything was kind of presented to me as, we're just interviewing tons of people, we're just doing our due diligence. So after hearing from them in May, I think the next time I got any type of interaction was in December. And December was what I was told was still not that I was going to possibly testify. It was at the time where they said they may have been turning over the witness list to the people they spoke to the defense. So they said, hey, we just letting you know we're turning these names over to the defense. So it can put you in a scenario where you're contacted, whatever. And I was like, okay, fine, no problem whatsoever. But then they gave me the option of, did I need help with getting an attorney? And I'm like, getting an attorney? Why would I need an attorney? And that was kind of like the first cue that I may be considered as a witness.
So did you get an attorney?
Yes, I did. So I refused it at that time because I still was in denial, like my testimony, probably won't be significant. And then once we got to about, I want to say April, they reached back out and I was like, oh, wow, this is real. And I
All right, now for those tuning in, this is the Punisher. This is the Punisher speaking, and he's giving his details on the case.
For help with securing an attorney.
Wow. So let's go back to 2012 now. I mean, we're going back quite a few years. You got the call from the woman who identified herself as Janet. You show up, you said at Trump Tower, you testified to this. The woman then tells you, hey, this is not what I said it was. This is not hanging out with me and my girlfriends for my birthday and putting on a show. And she tells you what's going on. I mean, that you said in your testimony, this is something that this was not part of your normal work routine. I mean, you were somebody who would go to parties and have fun with grandmas and aunts and bachelorette parties. And I mean, this is not your usual game. So what made you kind of agree to take part in this?
Me being as honest as possible, just physical attraction and the initial scenario of it. I mean, Miss Ventura is a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. So, opening the door to a woman as beautiful as her, actually in a role that gives indication that she's nude, I'm like, wow, what's this? And again, me coming in and then what she explained to me she was interested in and the amount of money she gave me initially, it just seemed like a win-win for somebody in my occupation trying to make some extra money on the side.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, $800, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I mean, even now, 13 years later, that's a lot of money.
Well, with me initially quoting $200.
Yes.
And yeah, it's 4 times what I asked for. And that's just initial, literally nothing happened through the door. It's just here, this is for you. You know, so it was a very tempting scenario in terms of, you know, that being presented to me the way it was with her beauty and the amount of money. It was like, how do I turn this down?
Yeah, most definitely. So, you know, some time passes and then you figure out finally what's going on here, or who these people are. You kind of talked about being at the Essex house, and you said you said in your testimony there was usually some downtime.
Yeah, so
you know, prep time or whatever. And talk to me about how you realized it was Sean Combs.
Literally, sometimes it'll say, hey, show up at 2 a.m., but they may not be ready to interact for literally a couple of hours. So on this specific occasion, I was put into an extra bedroom in the suite. And to kill time, I figured I'd watch TV, and the hotel happened to have a welcome message. So as I cut on the TV, it just said Essex House would like to welcome Mr. Sean Combs. And it was kind of like a wow, like I literally had no clue. That's who I was interacting with. And this was a period of time after the first time. It might have been as much as a year into these interactions. So I honestly felt like a dunce. I followed Mr. Combs on Instagram. I actively checked his page every now and then, and I never put it together.
Wow. When did you discover, like, how long after that did you discover that Cassie Ventura, you know, you said you followed him on social media and you figured out that Cassie Ventura was the woman that you were engaging in these sexual activities with?
That was almost immediately the same scenario with Essex House, because she was actively posted and photos with him on his page. So like I said, I was spiraling past his page, but I guess I didn't come across any of the ones with them together while I was unaware. So, but it was pretty clear once I saw his name on a TV screen.
So you had between 8 and 12 encounters with them. You know, it was always the same, it sounds like, from what you said, the baby oil. Did that ever strike you as kind of, you know, different? Or, I mean, you described it as you thought this was like a fetish type thing, and that drew an objection. I mean, were you kind of like at first, did you ever, like, after leaving this, you're like, wow, this is some good money I'm making. This is extra money I'm making. But were you ever like, wow, this is pretty, you know, wild. What's going on here? These people are really into this whole baby oil thing. And the guy kind of saying, okay, move the candle here and do this and do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a consistent place of discomfort for me. I won't say it was necessarily centered around the details of the baby oil and stuff, because I did understand that there was a kind of like a sexy scene, as I described it in my testimony, that wanted to be created. So if that was the visual he liked, I didn't see it completely off. But it was just in general for me, it was outside of my comfort zone in terms of just being in this environment with a woman that's partnered, her partner's watching, and actually actively participating in terms of directing, you know, turn your body this way, move the candle this way. It just wasn't a place of comfort where I could get truly in an intimate space.
Yeah, I would think that would be uncomfortable. You know, you described one interaction in particular where Cassie Ventura seemed a little startled. And you said that Sean Combs threw money down on the bed and she seemed a little bit startled. And he said, like, no, I like this SH, you know what the rest of the word is. You know, what was that like? I mean, that it sounds like that was the only time money ever came from him. You testified she always handled the cash and setting up these transactions.
Exactly. I mean, that situation, obviously, prior to that point, Mr. Combs really kept a distance from our interactions. He would always be literally as much as 10 feet away in a corner, and he would kind of, like a voyeur scenario. This was one of the few times where he actually was in close proximity. So just my experience, and I guess in terms of with me, even him being close in the area was out of the ordinary. So when I guess he threw the cash on the bed, which was actually in a space of approval, right? He said he was enjoying what he saw. It just was so far out of the ordinary. We both reacted, like startle response. And then she was always had awareness in terms of him and his, being attentive to him. She immediately checked in. Hey, are you okay? Everything is fine? Which he assured that he was. He just was enjoying, I guess, whatever the activity he was viewing.
A big part of the government's case here is that, Cassie Ventura is a victim of sex trafficking, that she was under duress, that she was coerced to take part in this. And so it seemed like on cross-examination, Xavier Donaldson was getting at the fact that you were under the impression that she seemed to, at least in the one interaction you described, she seemed to be enjoying herself. The prosecution kind of asked you that question as well. You never saw violence, you said, never heard any violence when they would leave the rooms after the interactions. Did you ever see anything that caused you concern for her when you entered these rooms for these encounters?
I did not. The circumstances were very routine and methodical. I've rarely seen any of the interactions firsthand between her and Mr. Combs. Like I said, the majority of the time he was across the room. They did have moments where he would leave the room and she would follow him out. But upon returning, things seemed normal as before. So I had no cues that she could possibly be under duress with the circumstances.
And I know that Meredith Foster asked you about, there were times where Cassie Ventura would wince or sigh, I think were the words you used, when Sean Combs would give the instructions. I mean, did the wincing and sighing, could you elaborate on that a little more? I mean, what was your impression of that?
Yeah, so the wincing and sighing was to the specific directions, but my honest assessment of it was some of the directions were very specific. Move this to the right, move this to the left, and it can come repetitively to kind of get the perfect scene, the perfect angle. And I viewed it at that time as just frustration. We're in a sexual and trying to create a sexual connection scene, and then there's these kind of minuscule instructions to do it a specific way. So I saw it as frustration. Again, that's in the moment. In hindsight, I'm sure there could have been a possibility that the distress was, or what I viewed could have came from a different motivation or a different experience that she was having, but I did not read it that way in the moment.
Mm-hmm. It did seem like in your testimony, and I'm not going to use the language Sean Combs used, he was very graphic, but from what you recounted, that, he was the guy in charge. I mean, he was saying to you at one point, he, I guess, threw some condoms on the couch. And then he said, now I want you to, do this. So he was the guy, did it feel like at the time in your recollection that he was running the show?
Based on how I viewed it, and I stayed. When I first got there, my very first encounter, it was explained to me that this was a scene or a sexual fantasy that was trying to be created. So I always, in all my experiences, understood that I was to participate with Miss Ventura to create this scene. So I knew it was for his pleasure in terms of it being aggressive or any energy outside of consensual between him and his partner. I did not get a read on that.
So you did not feel he was aggressive?
I did not. It was, even in that moment, it was more assertive. And it was assertive. It was him asking for what he wanted, but not an aggression that I thought could be fearful or to create fear.
And it sounded like you and Cassie Ventura, you guys would like engage in chit chat. It was like, oh, hey, good to see you again. How's work? Da 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 da. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a pleasant, personable exchange every time I showed up. You know, she would obviously remember my work situation, ask me about work, ask me how things are going. You know, we'd have a small conversation. So it was very cordial and natural.
So Sean Combs, you know, you walk into the courtroom to testify. He's a powerful guy. Still, in his situation that he's in now, he's a powerful man. When you walk in, you put your hand up and swear to tell the truth, and you sit down in that chair, did you look at him at all? Did you make any eye contact with him?
Honestly, I was doing the opposite. I was trying to avoid it. What I wanted to do coming in there, I understand his position, you know, very powerful person. You know, there is a scenario where they say they didn't give him bail because of the possibility of him maybe intimidating people and stuff. So of course that was a concern or worry that I considered. But at the same time, I'm compelled to tell the truth, right? I have to tell the truth. I have to give my recount of what I remember. And what I just wanted to do was do it in a fair, with no bias, and just give the circumstances that I was a part of. And I think it was kind of comforting, if I'm being honest with myself, knowing that I did not see any abuse, any aggressive behavior or anything that I can really align with and testify. I was hoping that just that truth would be honored and just as a place of integrity, and he didn't view it as a personal attack or a discredit in any way to anybody involved.
You testified that these encounters ended, and it, you know, this is something you've spoken openly about. You wrote a book about it, that you had trouble performing, that there was some anxiety surrounding that, and that you had some issues, you know, with erectile dysfunction. So let's touch on first how, you know, the encounters ended. You said they didn't call you again because there was a time where you couldn't kind of complete the job.
Yeah, well, that's my assumption. That's not confirmed by them, but
sure.
Specifically the last time we interacted, that was the similar situation with the throwing of the condoms. So there was a direct desire to see penetrative sex. And I guess it being out of the norm, you know, him asking, you know, directly, I got some anxiety and I could not perform. And that was coupled with the fact that it had been quite a few months since I had been called by them. And during that time, I had like an injury to my arm. I couldn't work out. So I also felt like maybe I didn't show up in the similar physical condition, you know, at my best. So these were interpretations that I created that, hey, this could possibly be the last time. Maybe I'm getting fired per se. And it ended up being accurate. So it was, I guess, a good prediction.
And you wrote a book about this. You called it Freezer Meat. So talk to me about why you decided to write a book about it. And it obviously came up because you wrote about that. You wrote about this couple, this married couple, in your book without naming them. You wrote it in 2022. But why did you write the book?
Yeah, so the full name is In Search of Freezer Meat. And when I was going through my, I went through a tough time, to a bad breakup where I became completely incapable of having sex. I could not get an erection for almost a year. And I went to multiple doctors and stuff to try to find out what was going on. And I found out it was not anything wrong with me physically. And it was all a mental scenario. We're further looking into it. 50% of cases of ED are all mental. Men are physically fine, and it comes from anxiety. So the reason why I spoke about their story specifically was that circumstance specifically made me unable to use erection pills at all. Prior to the situation, I could pop a Cialis and be fine, but there was so much pressure. My way of performing was, if one pill didn't work, then I would take two. Then I would take three. And I was really taking some absurd amounts of pills, thinking more medication was going to correct the situation. And I realized that if you have anxiety, it creates a hormone, cortisol, restricts your blood vessels. And I don't care how many pills you take, it's not going to work. So I referenced their story, not for the details of their story. I used it as a circumstance where I tell a story about my life, the effects of it, and it gives some sort of medical understanding to why other people could be having a problem. So that's really the basis of my book. It's a bunch of personal stories that are connected to medical causes, solutions that have to do with men struggling with erectile dysfunction, and more so psychologically, that there's just, millions of men trying to fix a mental problem with a physical remedy. Everybody's popping pills, testosterone boosters, and these things, and very well it may just be shame and a confidence issue that could actually be a problem. And in my case,
up here.
And in my case, I did the extreme, because to correct my mental issue, I went as far as getting a penis implant, which I don't regret, but that's for 70-year-old men. I'm getting an implant at 47 years old because I was so far gone from the anxiety or whatever. I could not function. And, I'm happy with my decision, but I realized that it's a real low place. You feel emasculated. You feel a shell of yourself. As I told my story, it's like every other guy I spoke to in my age range was having a similar experience. So I just wanted to create a tool that I could have used myself going through this issue that maybe men can read, identify, relate, and get motivated to fix whatever issue they may be going through. Because it's affecting men personally, it's affecting marriages. We all know a married couple that sleep in a separate room and they haven't had sex in 2 years. These things are way too common in our society. So I was just trying to make a self-help book and help men out. And obviously that story, the details of it contributed to giving a cause and effect of anxiety.
Just finally, the cross-examination, how did you feel? I'm reading a transcript. So when you're up there and you're being questioned by Xavier Donaldson, and he starts off by, congratulating you on your book. Did you think he was being snarky, or how did you feel he was, how did you take that?
Believe it or not, the opposite. I would, when you're preparing for cross-examination, you think somebody's going to try to rip you apart. I'm expecting aggression. I'm expecting to try to make me seem incredible, right? To take away my credibility. And I know you can't get the energy reading it, but it actually seems sincere. He actually said something similar in closing. He said, Mr. Hayes, I wish you the best. I wish you the best with your book. And I think what I felt from his from his cross-examination and dealing with me, I'm being honest. Like, he has all the notes. He has the notes. He knows everything that I said for months. And I stuck to my consistency of my truth, my recollection. I didn't deviate that in a way, at least I felt, that was biased to either side. And I think that's why I didn't get the venomous attack that you would expect in this type of trial.
Yeah, and he tried to imply that you had feelings for Cassie Ventura, and you kind of quickly corrected him and said that's not correct.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of cleared it up as testimony went on. I think what the misconception was I did feel special. My understanding, I believed what I was told in the beginning. So I believed they were a married couple, even when I found out who they were. But I thought this was a nuanced thing. Like, them hiring me, I thought I was the only guy. And I thought, listen, out of all the men that she could have do this and they can have this experience with, I'm the guy. And this is really what I thought. So I guess it got confused with me feeling special about being the person chosen collectively by her and also by Mr. Combs, that was romantic feelings that I had for her. And that was not the case. That's why that's why I said in testimony, I believe that's out of context.
And what's it like now to see your name all over the place? And it obviously your legal name is not the name you see in the headlines, but we see Punisher, in all the headlines. Has this been pretty surreal? Yeah,
it's way more than I could have ever imagined. And I have not really processed the meaning of it yet because it's difficult. You know, we're not exactly in a, if everybody was like you, where you're going to assess it based on the facts, you're going to get the testimony, you're going to see everything, then this would be easier. But this is a place where ideology rules. Somebody can have a strong opinion and that strong opinion becomes fact. So in this scenario, I've been a male stripper for 30 years. And in this testimony, I might as well have been a male escort for 30 years.
So there you have it, the Punisher. He's been a male escort 30 years, male stripper. He says, you gotta understand, P. Diddy was hiring nothing but the best in that field. And believe it or not, this particular guy here is top of the line in erotic.
I thought Cassie called him.
Well, you know, what I'm saying is P. Diddy's sponsoring, he's paying top dollar. And I mean, of course, Cassie's spending P. Diddy's money doing this. That's what makes it even more a partnership.
But these people were for hire, right?
Work for hire.
Okay. Consenting adults.
Consenting adults. This is what's going on.
So it's just really how it plays out in the big picture of how I'm viewed, and I'm still assessing that and processing that. A lot of negative feedback. You know, a small portion of positive, but you know, it goes with the territory. You know, I didn't really have a choice, and I just have to manage it the best I can.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts is I'm just I'm grateful for the opportunity to present myself in a way different than just the Punisher, the male escort / stripper, because that just pigeonholes you into kind of a perspective. So I appreciate you offering this platform where I can present myself in a way where maybe people can see a different light and have a different opinion of me, even though my unfortunate participation in that trial.
Do you have any regrets about ultimately saying yes to that first, you know, the sexy scene, or what Sean Combs calls a freak off?
You know, it's funny you say that. Literally, at that point, I was 40 years old, and I barely did house parties. So if I got calls for them, I would refer them out to other guys. And I was texting that, I was putting the information in to send to another guy to do the party. And once I heard Trump Tower, I was like, oh, wow, it's a fancy hotel. Maybe they'll tip a lot. I kept it. I was this close to not even being involved. So, yeah, there's some regret. You know, I'm going to manage this the best way I can, but the best possibility would have been to not be involved at all. And the biggest regret is I know it's still allegations and there's no actual verdict in the case. But if this was a scenario where Miss Ventura was under distress and forced to do these type of acts, it's something I feel terrible about, even unknowingly participating in any regard. You know, that's something that sticks with me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sheree Hayes, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy.
That was the Punisher.
He was about to give it away till he heard it was the Trump Towers. They had to put Trump in there, huh?
So it was the Trump Tower. He knew it had to be some good taste. He knew it had to be some money up in there.
Yeah, they
Trump
are
Tower.
nice.
Oh, they are phenomenal. TVs in the bathroom mirror.
In the jacuzzi.
No. Inside the mirror. You know, like when you wash your face.
Yeah.
Inside the mirror is a flat screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, They got it going on, man. I think now I love the Vegas view and everything, but Chicago got a good view. DC nice, but yeah, I think Chicago, that view in Chicago is crazy.
I've never been to the Chicago Trump Tower, just the Vegas one.
Yeah, that Chicago Trump is like
And
that.
the Vegas
And
one is absolutely beautiful.
yeah, Vegas is like that. I did it for my birthday. That's what that backdrop is on
Oh yeah, I think you
a
were
few
telling me.
years. Yeah, a few years
I
ago.
don't know what happened to my pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in the cloud.
Let's see. We got a lot of them guys been disappearing. They've been catching them guys who ran away from that prison.
What about the guy who they turned off the water? You think he was forced to do that, or he was involved in the jailbreak?
He said if he didn't do it, they was gonna kill him.
So why
So
didn't
that
he alert
answers.
anyone after all the hours after they were gone?
Yeah, I mean that answers that. He said they was gonna kill him if. So they was gonna kill him if he didn't.
And
If
what
he
about all
started
the
talking.
women that went to jail for helping the guys?
Yeah, I know his grandmama went to jail. One of them guys' grandmama went to jail. I'm trying to look and see what them articles are on. That shit crazy. That boy got his grandmama locked up, man.
Mm-mm.
So he felt like someone sending the money.
All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. After more than a week on the run, we're learning more information about the New Orleans jailbreak as they've apprehended 3 individuals today, meaning there are only 2 out of the 10 initial inmates that escaped from that Orleans jail facility just over a week ago. I want to put this up here on Live Now from Fox from the Attorney General there in Louisiana, Liz Morrell, saying captured inmate Lenton Van Buren now back in custody. He was picked up in Baton Rouge. Very proud of our DOJ Fugitive Apprehension Unit work with the partners there. Van Buren was originally incarcerated on charges of parole violation as well as others. And I also want to put up this from the Louisiana State Police saying 3 of the remaining fugitives taken into custody, Lenton Van Buren arrested in Baton Rouge, Leo Tate and Jermaine Donald were arrested in Walker County, Texas by the Texas Department of Public Safety. So some big information that we're just gathering here on Live Now from Fox about this jailbreak. And we've been following it very closely here on Live Now from Fox for some time. I just want to give you some more information about this as they did capture Len Van Buren, and then we're following the latest with 2 more. So that makes a total of 3 today, and 2 out of the 10 is still at large, as of course we are following it very closely. Van Buren, the 6th individual apprehended, was charged with second-degree murder in connection with a November 2021 fatal shooting in New Orleans East. He pleaded not guilty in April of 2022. This year, Van Buren asked the court to represent himself. A mental competency hearing was scheduled for May the 29th. So, of course, we're also following just the individuals that are now in custody for aiding and abetting some of these individuals in this prison as we were following it very closely. It continues to go. And this stems back to a jailbreak as a total of 10 inmates escaped from the Orleans Justice Center after climbing through a hole behind a toilet in the early morning hours of May the 16th. Their disappearance was not noticed for several hours and started a massive, more than a week-long manhunt. 7 people have been arrested so far on suspicion of helping the escapees, including jail maintenance worker for shutting off water that allowed them to climb through, obviously behind the toilet there. And of course, we are following it very closely. And this was some of the image of these 10 individuals in the initial escape back on May the 16th. We do know now the latest update is that 3 more apprehended today, still only 2 individuals still remaining at large, those being Antonio Massey and Derek Groves. The other 8 have been apprehended by police so far. So we're following all of this here on Live Now from Fox. Liz Murill providing the update on what we know at the latest. Potentially starting tomorrow, we'll have another update. There's been significant criticism of the jail system and allowing this to happen, and the lack of awareness of the video coming out as they were getting a head start on authorities after getting out of this Orleans Justice Center. All right,
All right, that's live now from Fox. 2 escaped New Orleans jail inmates still at large after 3 more brought back into custody. Let's go.
And so saying that, hearing the governor's comments yesterday, what were your thoughts to him basically kind of throwing your department under the bus?
You know, it was troubling on a Sunday evening. It was deeply troubling on a Sunday evening because we are in the middle of a crisis. And crises can be a little bit chaotic. And everybody responds to crises in a different way. Some folks add to the confusion, and some folks try to be a part of the solution. I'm going to do my dead level best to be a part of the solution in dealing with the clear and present danger that we're faced with, which is 7 armed and dangerous men, possibly on the streets of New Orleans, possibly still in this area, possibly outside of the parish. I understand the governor would like to know why we hadn't filed additional charges against those inmates. And the simple answer is we never got the evidence from the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office, without evidence in a case, we can't move forward. We can't ethically file charges if we don't have the contraband that was recovered, if we don't have the body-worn camera footage that was used, if we don't have the video surveillance that was used, if we don't have a complete police report that was used, we just can't go forward. And if we do go forward without evidence, we get tossed out of court by a judge, or the case, the person is acquitted by a jury because it's a court of law that requires evidence. Now, what I've done for you, because I figured you might have some of those questions, is I've got a complete list of the individuals that escaped from the jail and any charges that were levied on them when they were in OPSO. Linton Van Buren, charged with battery of a correctional facilities employee. That case was refused because the sheriff's office failed to provide reports. Possession of introduction of contraband into a jail facility. That case had to be refused because the sheriff's office never gave us any of the evidence necessary to prosecute the case. Battery of a correction facility employee. That case was accepted and it's set for competency in Section F on May 29th of this year. Another charge of introduction of contraband refused again because we didn't get a police report, nor did we get the evidence. Another case refused because we didn't get the evidence. Jermaine Donald, that case was accepted, it's set for motions on May 28th of this year. Leo Tate pled guilty in 2019, has no new cases from OJC. Kendo Miles, that case is on hold because of a competency process. And there's a discovery hearing set for that case 6/12 of 2025. There was another case that was refused because the victim stated that he did not want to go forward because it was a jail fight and he's now out of custody. And the victim's mother also called and said the son did not want to go forward after we pressed to try to get him to go forward. Derek Groves pled guilty. That's the case that I tried twice with my lawyers. And this man's on the run right now, who could have been taken upstate, but for some reason the state never came to get him. He pled guilty of a battery of a corrections officer from 2024. So there was a conviction in that case. Corey Boyd, there's a charge, and that matter is accepted and is being prosecuted. It's set for discovery for July 16th of 2025, and we hope we get the evidence from the sheriff's office. Robert Moody had charges that came out of OJC. That case had to be refused because the sheriff's office simply did not provide the evidence for us. And that's been happening for a couple of years now. And we have here letters that we have written to the sheriff's office, to the sheriff specifically, calling her attention to a number of issues. We can share those with you, calling attention to the fact that we are not receiving information timely. In one case in particular, we had to bring charges against the sheriff's deputy because he was removing and hiding shanks, weapons carved in the jail during the fight, and that evidence was not available for us to move forward with, and we're bringing charges against that person. There's also a letter to Judge Afric, to the Doug Williams from the FBI.
Yeah, y'all can see, man, you know, a lot's been going on with that. Man, tune in, man. We're going to have some more to talk about with this. We'll hit y'all back with it later on. Salute to everybody that came through. May y'all have a fantastic night.
I be flying like a falcon.